City of Greenwood, Arkansas, this Monday, June the 6th, 2022 at 7:07 p.m. Ms. Deary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. A.C. Brown is absent. Ralph Meeker.
Here.
Rob Powell is absent. David McKinney.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. If you would please stand tonight, we will begin our meeting with a prayer led by Brother Ronnie Deal from First Baptist Church, followed by our pledge of allegiance by Chief Brian.
Let's pray together. God, we thank you so much for the blessings that we enjoy. We thank you for our city, for the leaders that serve in this city. Lord, we are so grateful for your goodness and your grace and your mercy in our lives. Lord, we pray tonight for cities all over America that are struggling, that are hurting, that are suffering, people that have lost lives these past few weeks. Lord, we pray for comfort and peace in their lives. Lord, we pray that you'll continue to protect those that protect us, that you'll bless those that serve in those areas that keep our safety in mind. Lord, I thank you for the people that serve in this community, for the heart that they have for people. And Lord, we just pray you'll continue to bless them. And God, I pray for this meeting that, Lord, you will guide and direct. We pray for decisions that will be made, give wisdom and direction. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would ask the council to consider giving an approval of the minutes for the May 2nd regular council meeting.
Mayor, make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Meeker.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Terry.
Thank you. We are at the recognitions and acknowledgements. I would like to acknowledge we have a full house. Thank you for coming. Brother Ronnie will be passing a plate momentarily. I would ask at this time if someone in the audience would step forward that, I'll describe it first. Well, I gave it away, part of it. I'll describe this person to you first. If you've been in City Hall ever, and you've ever needed anything, you go to this person's office. If you've ever called City Hall in need of something, you're normally talking to this person on the phone first. And then that person finds whoever needs can answer your question and takes care of business. This person could easily be mayor, but I will not allow that. Danielle Smith, would you step up, please? No. Okay, gentlemen, would you escort this? That's why they're here. Wow. I have cash, but not now. Yeah. So I did this little plaque a few months ago and have had it a few months because somebody decided last month they weren't coming to a council meeting.
There were tornado warnings.
Oh, they were doing it. So I told her to stay home with her children. And this, for instance, tonight, she does not have to be here. No, she kind of does. But she does not, it's not required. Although I would like her to be here because when I get stumped and don't know something, I start texting and she gets me an answer or whatever. I'm telling you, every single day, not a day goes by that I do not rely on her without a shadow of doubt. So for selfless service and dedication to the city of Greenwood, you are appreciated more than words can express. Danielle Smith. So I'll tell you what she said. Wish you told me I wore more makeup. More makeup. Did you need me or you? No, okay. So Chief Brian, if you work hard, you might get one Sunday. Thank you for indulging us with that. Okay. Committee reports. Most of these, I believe, I didn't have a chance to look, but I think most of these have come in either on your tablet Did we miss anybody specifically? You know, report to internal and
I don't think I got one from Parks Commission.
okay. Tammy's out of town, so that may be there. But if you have any questions, as always, council or anybody, let Danielle know. She'll get you an answer. So we'll get you caught up on anything you might need. Yes, before I get into that, thank you very much. See, this is what happens. People that know what they're doing text me. So we have some new officers in our midst tonight who I gave a direct order and none of you got up. You almost did, didn't you? So I'm going to let these gentlemen come to the podium and introduce themselves, and we want to welcome them to Greenwood and all our staff. If you don't mind, gentlemen.
I'm Officer Chris Nally. Been here almost 9 years now. Moved from Northwest Arkansas. Been married 15 years. Have 3 beautiful children. Also a sergeant in the Army National Guard here, Chappie. Been here an officer for a little over a year now.
Very good.
Trinity Allen. I'm from Oklahoma, but I'm not going to say that too loud. I graduated, moved here my junior year in high school, graduated here in Greenwood. Me and my wife decided this is where we wanted to make our home, and so we have a beautiful daughter. And I started my career here at the Greenwood Police Department, and I've been here a little over a year now.
I'm Justin Dawson, yes, related to the chief. I'm originally from New Jersey. I'll say that even quieter than Cal did. I graduated with 2 bachelor degrees, and I've been with Greenwood Police Department since August, and out my own since March, so glad to be here.
You guys, I wanted to try to make myself look good, so if you guys will come up here. Chief, by the way, did you need to do both of those? Dawson and from New Jersey? I'm not sure that.
No, that's why I said, try to say it quietly.
Get right there.
Can I get you good side?
Yes, sir. All right, give these guys, these are Dawson. Oh, no, you have to stay. Oh, yeah, go work. Thank you. All right, back to the reports. I think we're good there. If you have any questions, just let us know. Citizen forum. I don't have anybody that signed up this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have Jim Reynolds. If you would step forward, sir, and give us your name and address, or tell us what's on your mind.
Which address?
Yeah.
Several of them.
Whatever you want.
3015 on Excelsior Road, Greenwood, Arkansas. As you can see tonight, we've got a pretty good crowd here. I asked to speak for the library, even though our fearless leader, Dr. Ken Hamilton, will be up a little bit later, but I wanted to do it early because the Razorbacks are playing tonight, and I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. I talked before No, I just wanted to make one comment about the library, well, maybe 2. The first one, as you know, the library has been fully funded here in Greenwood, even though it's not just a Greenwood library. I'd like it to be known as the regional library, which it is, and it serves all of Sebastian County except Fort Smith, and it even serves Waldron because it serves 2 different counties. So it's a regional library. A lot of you and a lot of the things that we've heard is, I used to be able to walk to the library. I can't believe we can't walk to the library, but I hope someday, because of the trails and the sidewalk system, that we can walk to the library. But people have always thought that it was just a Greenwood library when it is in fact a regional library, and we have to serve all of Sebastian County. And we have a librarian from Lavaca that is on the library board. We have a librarian from Hackett that is on the library board. And this is the spot that they chose. And it was more than one person that chose that spot. There was a committee that recommended it to the library board. And then the library board took that recommendation and voted yes for the location. So that's how that all came about. So it wasn't just one person making this decision. It was several, and from the whole county. If you were to go to Fort Smith, as many of you might have tried, like I did, because I wanted to see if it was true, when you go to Fort Smith from the county, you actually have to pay $35 for a card to check out anything in the Fort Smith Library. If you are from Sebastian County and you go to the regional library here in Greenwood, you can get a card for free. And you can check out ebooks, regular books, and, you know, Farmers Bank is a great community room. However, there's going to be a bigger one in this library, and I'm excited about that because that was a wish that I made with our fearless leader, Renee, at the library, that we have a community room with somebody that is on staff that knows how to use the technology and can teach you how to use the technology, and that everything will work when you go there to put on a great presentation at the library. It's more than just books, guys. And anyway, I wanted to say that. We're bringing a $6 to $7 million project, and we're asking the city to put in some money. Maybe it's $1 million. But if it's $1 million, wouldn't you do that if you're going to get $1 million plus back in the future? That's growth, and that's progress, and that's what I'd like to see in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Shameless plug. I think it's awesome. There's a rendering, I believe, Mr. Reynolds brought in out front, a very early conceptual drawing, I think, of the building. So it's pretty exciting stuff. It looks a little like the pavilion. It's awesome. Thank you for being here, folks, and I know that Kim's going to speak here in a little while. So, financial report, Mr. Don.
Okay, in the packets that you have, I gave you 2 revised pages, and I'll explain those. It's one on the solar project and the other on the advertising and promotions. So when I get to the statistics, I'll explain what those additional sheets mean. As far as the city sales and use tax revenues for the month of May, we budgeted 6%. I keep that foremost in your in front of you. Our same period, May over May, was down 3.5%, and it's the first actual not positive growth that we've had in a same period over the same year previous. We were in April 14.3%, so that negative 3.5% was a considerable drop. It brought our cumulative growth 6.6%. Now remember, I budgeted 6, so we're right at where I budgeted. We're just a little bit above about 0.6%. So I would have expected us to get closer to the 6% somewhere in October, November, but now that we're here, we got to start watching. I'm thinking that there's, even when I checked Fort Smith's tax revenues were also down in the month of May. Their collections were down significantly as well. But you're seeing, from my perspective, the impact of what I would consider to be inflation. The inflation numbers are probably influenced more greatly by fuel. So you're going to see people starting to move money from discretionary and from the wants to the needs. And even if you look at the city sales and use tax with online sales, our online sales were originally averaging anywhere between 6 and 7%. We're below that cumulative. So we're going to watch that next month because remember, the numbers here are March's actual collections, February and March's. So let's see what the month of April and May did. There was a discussion on the Fort Smith board about the fact that there was bad weather in the month of February and March, and maybe that had a lot to do with people not going out and spending money. As far as the county sales tax is concerned, we budgeted 10%. Our cumulative same period, May over May, was 4.7% growth. Cumulative growth 2022 over 2021 year to date is 15.4%, which is slightly down from the 18.6 that we had for the 4 months ended April. But it's still a cumulative growth above budget of 5.4%, so the county numbers are rather strong. Advertising and promotion,
As of May 31st, when I did the report, we budgeted a 10% growth for A&P. That's that 1% prepared food sales tax. Same period, May over May, we had a negative 23.47% drop. Now, if you look, that's just May over the previous year's May, and there could have been a lot of factors in there. So I wanted to go back and look at, was there some delay in some of the larger establishments paying their actual A&P tax? And there was. There's actually about 4 of them that paid in the later part of the week, around June 3rd. So those numbers are now reflected. This is a revised schedule that you have in your packet, and you'll see that the cumulative drop is 8.58%. Actually, growth is 8.58% instead of 5.48%. And our cumulative, our growth May over May, instead of negative 23%, was actually negative 10%. So there's a little bit of a downturn in the A&P flow of cash to us through May 31st. The A&P growth above budget was a negative 4.5% because even with the 8%, we budgeted 10. So we're going to watch those numbers carefully. Usually in the summer months, you do see a little bit of a downturn as you see the graph depict. A lot of that is because people are grilling out, they're buying food and they're cooking them at home, and they're not necessarily doing a lot of takeout. As far as cash flow is concerned, net increase in cash flow for May of 2022 was $396,000. Year-to-date net increase in cash is $1,103,000. The cash fund balance for all funds for the city is $16,913,000, and that is an increase over 2022, in 2022 of 6.98%. It's real healthy. As far as our net income is concerned, we had a net income, or we have a net income as of May 31st of $1,466,000, and that is adjusted for extraordinary item. The extraordinary item we're waiting on is the second tranche of the ARPA money, which should be coming in the month of July, at the end of July, probably then, or early August. Capital expenses, we budgeted, now adjusted for resolutions that we have done throughout the first 4 or 5 months, is now $6,000,004. That's our budget for capital expense and improvement. Our capital expense spend to date as of May 31st is $392,000, which is 6.13%. Now, if you go to the second page that I gave you, it's the one on solar. You'll see some changes in the numbers from what was reported to you as well, and I'll just go to the real numbers that is adjusted on the sheet in front of you. We had a long conversation with the Scenic Hills, I did, to get some handle on how the credits that are being generated by the solar company is actually being spread to our individual accounts from AVEC. And the way it was explained to me is that in that agreement that they have between Scenic Hills and AVEC is that the credits, or the kilowatt hours generated by the solar, is picked up and recorded by AVEC and spread lowest kilowatt hour account to highest kilowatt hour account. So they just go through and they wipe out the lower ones first and then leave the higher ones to be actual bills. We are going to get from AVEC now a report quarterly. That's probably when we'll do these adjustments. And we're going to reallocate the credits to the individual accounts that we have to spread those credits more equitably to all the departments. As you know, sewer has a lion's share of the AVEC accounts, and they're not necessarily, because they have the sewer plant and the water treatment plant on board on the AVEC side. So they're getting a real large bill, and they need that's the one that they get last. So we need to respread that out, and we'll do that internally by the report that we're going to get from AVEC. What we didn't have is we didn't have May's actual bill, so I went ahead and did May's bill, and that's why you see now our reduction or our percent of savings is 0.37%. So it's not real, there was this talk about, 10, 20%, or whatever we're going to end up with. But if you look at the graph below, we are now just 2 months. I gave you the actual kilowatt hours that were actually used through ABEC, and then I gave you the solar kilowatt hours that are generated and supplied to ABEC. And you'll notice that April and May, both were positive solar generated hours, generating now the credits, which the first 3 months we were in the negative. So I would expect that by the next month's report, you're going to start seeing a larger pickup of credit balance in the amounts that are being generated by the bills. You know, when you look at ABEC, we were normally getting $58,000 worth of a bill a month. I mean, for 4 months. In this case, this was the one you have in front of you is now 5. $58,000 from January through May. We only received from ABEC $36,000 this year, but we have to pay for the solar generated kilowatt hours to Scenic Hills. And that bill, those bills are $24,000. So that's why there's not a net big savings, because we have to pay for those. Should, at the end of the 6th year, we pick up that solar and buy that off, in other words, we acquire the actual power plant, we're not going to be billing ourselves. So that amount that we're paying Scenic Hills will drop dramatically, to the tune of maybe only a maintenance agreement with them where they maintain the property, and we actually get all that kilowatt hour credits directly back to us. And that's what makes buying it more economical to the city. We have to look at what that cost is and how we plan on paying for it. So that's the report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Marsh?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of capital expenses, we've talked about this the last month or so, that we were going to have a study session with the department heads to talk about these capital budgets. Do you plan to do that?
I'm game whenever we can set a date. That's good. And Mr. Marsh, obviously, I don't know if that's something you want to do at night, type deal, or just a consensus of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get with Tom tomorrow. We'll kind of throw a couple of dates up and we'll send it out to you. And yeah, we'll send it out to you and see what we come up with. That work?
Yes.
Okay. And I would remind you too that although it be much, much smaller than the array that we have with AVAC, the Swepco array is, I haven't been out there about a week. Is Greg here somewhere? That's nice. Sounds good. Are any panels up out there or poles at the new site?
I haven't seen them. I haven't been down there this week.
Okay. So ground has been cleared. I think they were trying to set poles soon. If not, Sonny, do you know?
Well, I heard they were doing a whole test down there, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
they called probably to take.
So that is, to remind everybody, that's going to be down by the dam. Again, about a quarter the size maybe of what we've got with AVAC due to the buildings that are on Swepco. So we'll be seeing that hopefully soon to kind of go in with what the report that Tom gets on AVAC. Thank you, sir. Agenda additions, I need to make one. We have a lengthy schedule. We're going to try to get to it as quick as we can, but do it all justice. I need to add one. It's going to be number 19.
16?
16?
Yeah, nothing's been added to that.
Oh, I have some to add. I'm sorry. The ones, I just assumed they were added when we went this morning, but we kind of take y'all. I'm sorry. 16 will be one to add if the council allows it. And it's ordinance of competitive bid, waiving competitive bidding. What do you have listed as? Okay.
Purchase.
Or,
Whatever.
sorry. Did you get all of it? That'll be 16. 17 will be a resolution for a budget amendment to purchase those sirens. 18 is a resolution to consider water tap wanting to be acquired by Farmers Bank.
It's an ordinance.
Ordinance, sorry, we changed, that's right. And that was advised
Ordinance to
by,
authorize water tap outside city.
thank you. And we were advised by Mr. Hamby to make that ordinance, not a resolution. 19, Richard McKinney is here, and it's per Mike Hamby. I talked to Mike this afternoon. He, by the way, Mike is home with COVID, and his wife, so keep those folks in your prayers. He didn't sound good at all, but he was able to talk barely. So 19 is, what do you want to call that, Richard?
It's a quit claim deed.
Quick claim deed, okay.
Turning the city over to me.
Yeah, exactly. What's,
It's property for the Gann property
Gann
on
property,
Daisy.
G-A-N-N. Yes, to authorize it, yes. And then 20, it was actually 19 this morning, but Sonny Bell has suggested the last one be on the agenda to go to Waffle House after we're through, and he was fine. Is that right? Yeah, if everybody's okay too, we'd like to move these lovely folks up a little bit and so they don't have to stay for 5 hours. Is that okay?
I remember.
So we'd like to move 12 to number 1. Okay? Okay. It's not because we don't like looking at you. I think you probably want to go and watch baseball, right? Am I right? 4-0. Us?
Yes.
Very good. You're still here. I'm impressed. Oh, you're watching it all. Okay. Okay, so there we go. I think that's takes care of that. So, Mr. Ken Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
You are up, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you letting us be on the agenda, even moving us up.
Yes, sir.
Some of these shirts are kind of hard on the eyes. And just won't take much of your time, but just a few things to add to what Jim said about the county library. And we've struggled with this for years. I've been on the boards, off and on since 1980. Moved back here in 78, and off and on the library board since 1980. Trying to get everything together to get new facilities. It just hasn't happened. And finally, last month it happened with the full court finally funding 100% of it. And so we're ready to move on with that. And so one of the issues we've come across is nobody ever calls 911 and says, my house is on fire, get me to the library. You know, and they never said, somebody's trying to break in my house. Give me the library. I need a book on how to rebuild and failure. And they never say, okay, I got a medical emergency, give me the library. Okay. So we realize that the library is not an essential service, but the library also is a service that adds so much quality of life to a community. And we've been lacking in the quality we're able to deliver because of the lacking of our facilities. Even though our new Director of Library Services, Renee, has been here 3 years, she's done wonders with what we have to work with. But we're so excited now that when the Burtons donated the property to us, and like Jim said, we serve South Sebastian County, it's going to be more accessible for everyone out there. And so what we'd like you to think of is we're turning a shale pit into a show place. And the old timers here, nobody but me probably remembers this. Remember what we used to call that place out there?
Suicide curve.
Suicide curve.
I'm an old timer, thank you very much.
It was called Suicide Curve because it was so vertical, so blind, and there's many accidents there. So finally they cut it back. And so finally Suicide Curve is going away. But rather than call the development Suicide Curve Development, they decided to call it the development. But anyway, it's a $5 million project just for us, just for the library, it's $5 million. So we don't know what else is going to go in there and how much more it's going to improve the quality of life. But what we want you to think of is whenever it's time for you to make decisions, and that's why we're here tonight. We're just here tonight to show you that we're supporting you as you help us move on with this project because we've done all we can do right now. We've submitted the plans, we've had the death of Michael Jean, our architect, we've gone through COVID, we've gone through flood, we've gone through all sorts of things that's held us back. So now we've done all we can do, and when things are submitted to you as a city council, we're just asking you to partner with us and move things along as rapidly as you can so we can get the project moving. I mean, it's been years in the making, When I say we move along, I mean friends of the library board, all of you. We're all part of the team trying to make this happen. And so I just want to call your attention to 4 things that we do that you're probably not aware of.
4 things that we do in the community that it's more than, like Jim said, more than just checking out a book. And so one thing we do is we have summer reading program for kids. Then did you know that if children don't read during the summer, especially low-income children don't read during the summer, their reading drops back tremendously. We call that the summer slide. Some of us are still in it, okay? But, you know, the summer slide is something that when the library staff works with children through the summer, they're able to maintain their reading level through the summer and actually properly excel when they go into the next year. The other thing is we have a weekly stories for children. During the year they come in and we work with the parents and the children and show them how to work with their own children and give them story times, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we are actually a resource for homeschoolers. We're the library for homeschoolers. There's a lot of homeschool families in town. There's getting more and more homeschoolers in town. And so we're their resource for actually their quote, school. And so we're very glad to do that. And then the last thing we do is adult education. And there is a literacy counselor in Fort Smith. There's not one in South Sebastian County. But they have asked us to partner with them in South Sebastian County to be a literacy partner with them and use the library as a resource to help people get their GED and all the things that the Literacy Council needs to do. And you would think in this age of 2022 that the literacy wouldn't be a problem, but it still is. It really is. And so the library is doing these 4 things in the community that you really never hear about. Most people think it's just checking out books. But there's still many people in Greenwood area in South Sebastian County that don't have computers, they can't afford them. They're not on the internet, they can't afford that. And they can come to the library and do what they need to do on the computers. And so with the new facilities, it's going to be a wonderful place. Like Jim said, we got the meeting room. We're also going to have the media rooms and all the things that's going to add to this. We're going to be state of the art. And have y'all seen the plans for the library? Have you seen the floor plans at all?
I have, I don't know if anyone.
Okay, does anyone in the audience have them that could hand them out right now? Do we have to bring those?
Wouldn't that be, that's some
That'd be
sort
nice.
of, that's some sort of hint, I think. I don't
We had
know.
those. Oh, here's Renee.
Oh, there's
Yeah, good.
If we just had,
If we just had someone. The reason you don't hand those out first,
oh, thank you.
the reason you don't hand out things first, because people don't pay attention.
That's right. Oh,
You know this, Mayor.
Yes,
You
sir.
hand out stuff, think you lose them.
that's right. Oh, I lose them anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay, okay. Anyway, so, you know, if we asked you tonight, why do you serve on the city council? What's your reason for being here? You know, what would you tell us? Is it because of your own personal opinion? Is it because you have an ego? Is it because you want to do something that benefits you? Or is it because you want to do something that benefits the community? So every summer we have a program titled the Summer Reading Program. And a few years ago it was this one. Every hero has a story. Every hero has a story. And a hero is a champion. And so what we like to think of, those of us that have been working on this for years and years and years, and those of us who encourage on the forum court, those of us who are encouraging on the library staff, those who have been working on this, we want to think of them as heroes because they have done above and beyond to do things that are selfless, spent a lot of time doing it. So I want to ask you, when your time on the service is over, you know, are you going to look back and be a hero? And can you help us bring this multi-million-dollar project in Greenwood? And just when it comes time to vote, we just ask you to vote and try to help us move it along as rapidly as you can, so we're not stuck with a shovel bid. And we'll be gladly to answer any questions that you have for us tonight. We certainly appreciate your time and certainly appreciate, you know, this is just a small representation of the support we have for the Friends of the Library and the Library Board and the community. So we just wanted you to know that we're with you as we move on with this. Any questions?
Council?
Anybody need a shirt?
Get that young lady a shirt right there on the front row. That young lady needs a shirt.
She's getting harder.
Okay. I just want to say this is awesome. It's going to make a huge difference out there. It's going to make all the difference in the world. And if you don't know it, Michael John was all over this.
He was.
Just look at the building, and it's reflected in the water. It's going to be reflected in our senior citizen center. soon, so,
And we miss Michael every time we get him.
yeah,
We ever talk about it.
we have a tendency to tear up around here, so everybody look at Danielle, it's tough. But thank you so much for the presentation. I've always wanted to call you Reverend Nelson, is that okay?
No. No, just because I'm quiet here now.
Oh, okay.
That's because we're at the library.
Thank you for coming, thank you for the information, thank you, everybody, for being here.
So thank you for all you do.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
thank you, appreciate it. And yes, the rule is you have to stay. But the rules are made to be broken, right? Thank you.
I gotta take Jim home.
Oh, okay, yeah, Jim needs to get on. Watch Ronnie, you'll sneak out. You watch him, look at him. All right. Yeah, he's blending in there. Okay, moving on to what is actually number 1, planning and building. And those that don't have soccer games will remain. Planning and building, ordinance repealing, replacing ordinance 00-15, amending ordinance 1819, establishing planning jurisdiction, third reading.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Ms. Terry. Like the Mayor says, it's an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 0015 and amending ordinance 2213. This is the area of jurisdiction. I brought it to you once before, this before we annexed the curve, and Mr. Terry asked for us to look at it again, make sure the curve is added. It has been added, so this is the final map of the area of jurisdiction. And I'd like to get an approval to pass this.
Mayor, make a motion, we put that on the third reading.
Second.
Have a motion second to place on for its third reading. Call on.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Terry? Unanimous. An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 00-15 and amending ordinance number 22-13, establishing the planning jurisdiction area of the city of Greenwood, Arkansas.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, number 2 is repeal and replace ordinance 423-1407, establishing combined water and sewer tap fee schedule, third reading. Had the Tate, or not Tate, I'm sorry, I Tate. Water Wastewater Commission obviously looked at this and approved it, sent on for, but again, it's on for its third. So is there any questions in regard to this? Yeah, great, thank you. I couldn't find it.
We did corrected everything you said to correct. Actually, Charlotte did. And it's exactly the way you said it. We got rid of that one ordinance for the $500 and just changed the tax fee.
This was hashed out for you last month.
Yes.
Request for the changes.
Everything you requested.
You just raised everything 500, you got,
Just the sewer.
the sewer, right, and that eliminated the tap fee, or the impact fee. Which I'm not really for that, but I guess I am for it. Well, I mean, certain things have impacts on water and sewer. We've been through this many times. But you were talking about how those funds have to be a restricted area.
You need to do an ordinance for an impact fee, and there's nothing stopping you from addressing the totality
Right.
to the city. Not only does water sewer have impact, but all of the departments, including all the public service sectors, do as well when new development is brought in. So what we were just basically saying is take it away from just sewer. You guys can address it as a totally separate ordinance, which is what it says here in the law, and address it according to how the law says it should be set up. That's all we're saying. We're not
The
saying
490
it didn't have impact.
The 492 was just on sewer alone, that's why we're trying to do it.
Right, it was a tie-in.
The way you're thinking on that,
I think 50-foot around.
That's the price you pay for living in this beautiful city.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to place that on its third reading.
Second. Motion and second to place third reading title only.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous. An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinances 423, 492, and 14-07, establishing one combined water and sewer tax fee schedule. And further.
Thank you. Number 3, planning and building again, ordinance annexing the rezoning Scott Branton property 107 Ware Road, R1 to R3, second reading. Mr. Bell?
Council, you have a copy of the plat for the Mallard Crossing, is the name of the project. It's on Ware Road, just to the south of Eastgate. Would like for you to consider putting this on the second reading for the rezone or the annexation of rezone of this property.
To remind, last month is when you had the pictures and
Yes.
all that.
Because Frank was here and
I've got that again if you'd like to see it.
Sir,
I've got that
Oh.
again. if
he
you'd like
has
to
it
see it.
again in case the council.
gentlemen, want to see it again? No? Good, thank you.
Is this gonna call for amending our planning jurisdiction area map again?
No.
I'll make the motion to place that on its second reading.
Have a motion? Second. And a second to place on the second reading title only.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of annexation and rezoning of certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood and other ordinances.
Thank you. So Mr. Bell show, number 4. Ordinance rezoning R1 to R5 Holland property, second reading.
Yes, council, this is requesting a rezone for property located, it's bordered by Joplin Fern, Ithaca, and Evergreen. It's was owned by the Holland family, and we would like to have it rezoned to R5 for the purpose of building a multi-family project, single family and duplexes on that property. Again, you have a conceptual drawing of the property showing the location of the building, green space.
What's the south side of that property?
On the south side is a residential area.
So the dog park there, you've got drawn backs up to the residential.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that,
That's where the,
Oliver's place?
Oliver's, yes.
So was there any more discussion about the streets?
So we've not got our heads together, when I say us, Sonny and Chief back there, too much, I mean, on, not officially yet, but there is some still discussion on one way, and I think the chief alluded to me that one way is good, but you might still need to be looking at some width issue with that. Or is that a safe bet or a safe statement? So we're not completely finished those discussions yet, so we're looking at some way to make it right.
And you'll notice
And I'm not,
there's one building there that comes out on Fern, the rest of them come out on the other street. So
I'll make a motion to put it on for second reading, with the fact that they've got a third issue, we got a solution.
absolutely. And I'll tell you, and you can, my intention, and I know it's council's decision, obviously, is to get this taken care of, not just for this development, but for other future and things that will happen in the future. And I feel like, just to say it out loud, is that it's on a lot of this, most of it, or all of it, fall on the city, you know, in my opinion, to get this taken
I
care of.
agree, because we're having that should have been done
Correct.
a long time ago.
Yes, sir.
I totally agree. I
Okay.
just like,
Yep.
there's gonna be some development down there,
Yep.
that this is the time to,
Address it.
I'd like for us to have a good solution before we get the third one.
We'll have you a good plan of action by next month. Yes, sir.
Also, we discussed eliminating the unit on burn.
Right. We forgot about that. As a helpful something. So I think that's commendable in the sense that he's willing to change his plan to make all this work out.
So I'll make a motion to put on the second.
Okay, have a motion? Second. Second, place on second reading.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Vice Terry?
Yes.
It's unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood and for
Thank you. Number 5, rezoning R1 to R5 Looper property, second reading.
Yes, Council, this is the property that is located on Denver Street, 1225 West Denver. Again, you have a site map showing where this is located. It's next to the Denver Street Baptist Church. It's kind of a T-shaped lot. But we would like to put 2 duplexes back there. We have gone through the Water Wastewater Commission, and Greg Cross has approved the addition of 2 duplexes on that property with the upgrades that they've done in that area. If you would, I would like to put that on for the second reading.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion is second, place on second reading.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood and for other purposes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bell. See you in a couple
I'll be
of
back.
items. Number 6 is discussion and resolution of water service area 171. It was tabled from a previous meeting. I have no other documents to give to you tonight. I do just want to get you an update, and I think Mr. Cole may want to chime in here or not, or may do it later, whenever. So, suggested by myself, by me and other folks, to go and speak to James Fork again. So, Chairman Cole from the Water Wastewater Commission and myself went out and visited with their chairman, Terry DuBois, and Donnie Sanford, who's the runner of things out there. Had a good, nice, decent conversation and talked about things and what we proposed to them. Is this okay, or do you want to take it?
No, you're fine. I'll stop you when you.
Okay, when I mess up. So we were there to find out a couple of things, or request one thing and find out a little bit about something else. And it was about the lake that they proposed to build, that we kind of just did a wonderful job of segueing into that, saying, what about that lake? So we got to see a map that represents the lake, and they described what they have in mind for the lake. This is to provide future water for us and whoever. So that went well, and then we suggested to these 2 gentlemen, who reminded us, as we reminded them, that they're 2 people and we're 2 people, and we have to come back and talk to council, and they have to go back and talk to the board. So it was suggested to those 2 folks that they separate the 2 issues for us, as in Burton's property and the 53 other users that they would like to see us purchase. And as far as I'm concerned, again, just my 2 cents, I think we need to purchase at one time, because we can continue to discuss annexation, and if you're going to annex, you got to take the water. So, but we asked them for the time, the essence of time, and getting things done on the curve to separate those 2 things. And there's so many moving parts. I think was a good quote to the 53 users. They gave us 5. They offered us 5 years to get that taken care of. I said to them, or we both did, what if in 5 years we don't have that annexed? We've now broken our contract with you, and that's not a good thing. And the cost issue. We do have a new number back from Jeremy Shores, who has shared that with James Fork now, hopefully. And so we could get this. I'll just tell you, this went from 260 something to 214, and that's a $214,000 for the rights of those 53 users, and that's after he figured in all things necessary. But what we don't don't know too is how long that would take for natural resources to put a stamp of approval on. So that could take a while. So we really wanted them to separate the two issues, let us settle on Burton's property, and then come back late with a letter of intent of some sort, and the attorney's here, so whatever that might look like, to say we still are going to pursue these other users, but not today. So they took that idea, or they called it meeting, and it's tomorrow morning. James Fork has a meeting of their board of directors. I'm assuming I'll get a call whenever they get through to tell me how the whole board felt about that. The two gentlemen we were talking to, which one is a voting member and one is not, were in. They're like, this makes sense. They didn't quite understand it, almost like a light went off when we explained the urgency of this compared to this, and we don't have all the details on this, and the council's not comfortable voting on something that you don't know about the price, right, in annexation. So he said, got it, let me get with the board, we're supposed to hear something tomorrow. If I hear something, or whatever I hear, I will let you know, but if I hear good, a thumbs up, I'll be calling a special call meeting ASAP to get that squared away. That's a whole lot of tape I do.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
So the price that they had quoted us for the Curve property was 84 grand, which is 20-something hundred an acre.
2,200 an acre, 79,000.
Just under it.
And that number can't or isn't or won't or may be the rest of that.
That's just for the curve.
It's just curve.
So why wouldn't they want to do it? Just be a standard?
Well, it's apples and oranges. You got 22 acres with one user, and then these are 53 single users, so it's priced different. I can't explain that tape, and you can do better at that.
Well, who's the one user on the Curve?
Or actually, there's no user.
No users actually.
But it's all acreage
It's all acreage.
instead of compared to buying meters in the
But
ground.
they'll never reap any benefits when all the users get there on the Curve, correct?
We will, it's us.
They're gonna sell us the water.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of users gonna be there, so we're gonna reap benefits.
Yes.
So you're saying they're gonna charge us more per tap or meter on the 53 that are established, that they are currently.
Actually, it boiled down to about how much per, at 53 and 214.
4,000, a little over 4,000.
So,
Okay.
But they factored in a lot of debt in there. And
on the line.
some of that we need to be looking at and talking about. Plus the contract needs to be looked at
And that-
too, because they want to extend the term. And there's a whole bunch of areas that you can negotiate with.
On the 50.
A lot of moving parts. It took the two engineers a couple of weeks to come up with even a number that would be something they would present to us. So that tells you right there, it's very intricate. It's not something that you can just make a decision tomorrow. And the time is of the essence on the other project. So it makes sense. Even if there's remedy to after 5 years, it would force us and them to negotiate in good faith during that 5-year period to get those other people on board and get them in the city. So, I mean, it's a win-win. It's just, if you force us to do all of it now, it'll be an irrational and probably a not very economically viable number.
So that's the 4,000 or so we're talking about is not a good number for us.
We're pushing that off.
We don't know. That's what we're asking them to set aside. We want to.
That seems pretty reasonable to me.
Well, if you're willing to do it, I'm sure they'll take it.
Yeah.
But I've seen what they've done in other cities.
And I do too. I personally do too, but we wanted you to have every fact and every opportunity to tackle, I guess.
We just don't want that to be a caveat to the Curve.
Correct.
Just want
Right.
to be coupled with two things.
And they may come back.
And they're for that, they're for,
That's what they're.
They initially, that's what they wanted, was all of this together.
correct.
And we just knew one was just like you said, moving parts on this 53 user thing. We're talking annexation, and I haven't called yet, I'll have Danielle, because that's what she does. We'll find out tomorrow how often, I'm not remembering how often we can even attempt to annex. I don't think it's annual, I think it's, you gotta skip a year or something. Is that right?
You have to skip, but I'm not sure whether it's 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah, so
But,
that's
you
kind of,
can't
that's
do it
an
every year.
unknown.
I don't think we had to try to annex it in a while, have we?
We've never tried that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why we don't have to wait on a bunch of red tape, that thing meets all of our,
Absolutely.
Limits we're supposed
We're
to
on,
have.
now that Mr. Burton's in, we're on both ends.
Right.
Of course, we were already contiguous with the highway, but it's all, it's not an enclave, but it's,
well, I guess if we can
It's
get
an
it cheaper,
encore.
if we can get it cheaper, that's greater, but that sure seems like a reasonable number to me, is, like I said, what I've heard they've done to other cities selling water rights.
So what are we waiting on to annex?
us, you guys to decide that that's what you want to do.
Go for it, yeah.
Now, I don't know that it can be, I don't think we can put it on the ballot this year, I think we're too late.
Why do we have to put it on the ballot? They have not voted it.
No,
If they don't have.
if they ask to come in, you can't, you go to the ballot, you go to the vote, just like
So Burton has to come
Burton asked to come in.
Years
So I think
ago.
that's us being contiguous around it, we don't have to.
It's not, no. It's, and it's annexable because it's contiguous. It's not automatic at all. And to be honest, I mean, we're talking, I don't know that that would fail at all. You got X amount of over.
What's that when we do that, we need to do that over there.
I-
But anyway, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
Sounds good, find some information out, we need to meet, we'll have a meeting.
Okay, did you want to fix what I broke or?
I'm not real sure what's in here.
Well, you look good. Thanks for coming. Okay, so that's all that was, is a little bit of information. I'll let you know tomorrow, pretty quick. Number 7 is the city attorney ordinance annexing land to city of Lake. Al, do you have something for that for us? I know Mike's not here, obviously.
No, I'm still waiting on the title search. I was using one title company at the forefront of this, and she got involved in litigation. It was kind of stringing me along per se, and I had to change to a new one. And then she came up with James Fork at first, and she's been correcting it. I asked her today, she said it's taking longer than possible, so probably next month less.
Okay. Mike said tonight, I guess I'll quote him, he said, I thought I heard him use popping champagne as if you had gotten it done, but maybe, then he says, maybe I didn't.
I think it was other town over.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't think he meant that literally or not, but, okay, thank you. Yeah, the sooner the better, obviously, right, Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Number 8 is planning and building, ordinance rezoning R1 to C2, the curve, with an emergency passage attached.
Yes, gentlemen, this is an ordinance to rezone the Burton property from R1 to C2. Normally when I annex a piece of property, you know, all properties that are annexed come to an R1. And so, just like the one that you see for the Mallard Crossing, it is an annexation plus a rezone. And so this was left off of the annexation ordinance. So this is kind of a corrective ordinance to rezone that property to C2. That's the reason why the emergency clause is on there, so that we can go up any further because of the zoning.
C2 is mixed use.
Highway commercial. And normally, if I had done the annexation for the curve, it would have been in the ordinance, but I didn't do that.
Who is MJB Construction?
That is Burton's company's name. Okay, well, I was telling them this is a corrective ordinance. The zoning was left off of the annexation ordinance for the Burton property. And so I would like to get this rezoned to C2, so, and that's the reason why the emergency clause is on there, because it is a corrective ordinance. It should have been done with the annexation. And the way we want we won't be the ones that's holding up anything if, Roms or whoever else is ready to start.
Well, this obviously relates to the library too.
And it's not a corrective ordinance necessarily. There's
No,
nothing
no.
wrong with the other, just
Yeah.
follow that.
Yes.
I make a motion we put this ordinance on for first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion and second, first reading title only.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance 22-13 for the purpose of rezoning certain property known as the curves from R1 to C2 in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Make a motion to waive second, third reading.
Second.
Motion and second to waive, second, third reading.
Mr. Baker?
That's
Yes.
double like you.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Unanimous.
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion second to adopt.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Unanimous.
And I make a motion we enact the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion and second to enact the emergency clause.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
McDaniel?
No.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
What's the rush again?
Well, we've got a piece of property out there that we have some commercial ventures getting ready to start as soon as we clear up the water problem. And it's still zoned as an R1. And so this is a to correct that and bring it into a C2, which it is obviously a commercial piece of property.
Yes.
That fails for electric majority.
Again?
Yes.
You vote to pass it.
Because I'm always a little confused. I would like to enact my ability to vote yes.
And then it passes for the mayor's vote.
Thank you, Mayor.
No,
That's right.
no, I definitely can't. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you, gentlemen. Number 9 is Councilman Tim Terry. Water Wastewater Commission policy discussion.
Yeah, I had a couple of, no, we're not going to 635 Mount Harmony Road. I had a gentleman that came down and filled his pool up. And I know in the past, we have always given a break on some folks with that water bill. Also, I can recall a leaky toilet running, and I went and got a deal at the Jaegers, and here they refund me for my new park. I know we've done that in the past. Now, we may be getting to be a big enough town now where that's not feasible, whatever. But there was a lack of communication, I guess, between a water commission, the council, and the front office. I was red hot when I found out about this. It's been almost a month ago, right after our last meeting, I guess. And so I got on the phone, started calling, and I got my way worked around the take code, so I didn't even know it was on the water commission. I guess he'd just been appointed. And so we worked it out, and I got the information I wanted to. The gentleman's wife that came down here said, hey, we filled our pool. The water bill was, let's say it was $70, $80 more than normal. So in the past, I would think, well, the $40 that the sewer went up should be refunded because they were just filling their pool. I know we've got the meter you can put on a fire hydrant and fill up and do that way, but this was just a common courtesy that I thought was pretty neat. I don't know if any other town does it. I don't really care if any other town does it. It's something that we've always done. And come to find out, we're still doing it. Just a one-time deal. As I did research, you find out that people are calling down here in the middle of July, this pool water went down that much and they're filling it back up and wanting their bills prorated. Well, I don't think that was what the gist of the I don't think that's what we meant to be doing, the spirit of we're gonna give you a break on the huge impact of putting a whole bunch of water in your pool. So, since I have been doing some looking into this, I guess we're still doing that. We're giving them a break on a first time, one time a year. I guess we have maybe a list, or people that have pools, and maybe, the repeat customers. I don't know how that works. But I got satisfaction, I think, where I wanted to. I don't know if I'll have to find out if the gentleman that came down here and gotten his refund. Again, I really oddly haven't asked that question. But I know there's more than one instance of this, and I guess it was just a flaw between us and the ladies up front, because she just said plainly, we don't do that anymore, to this guy's wife. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd, because I don't recall us saying we're not doing that anymore. And then as I got to digging deeper, I come to find out, well, the Water Commission said they're not going to do it anymore. And then I got to thinking, wow, I don't know about something that the city is so kind and generous to, a gracious thing that we do for the people of this city, that the Water Commission ought to be changing that. I kind of felt like it was something that the guys that get elected to do stuff should be changing that policy. And it wasn't a ego deal, and the takeoff talk. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying we always end up in the lawsuits up here and not the commissions. So obviously I'm super anti-commission. That's not so secret. I've been that way since day one. Those were fail states put in for a psycho mayor we used to have. But anyway, they're here and they are what they are. But I just felt like that policy should have been brought to us. And maybe, why don't you attend the Water Commission meetings? Well, I get paid a little bit, not a whole lot. I got other stuff to do with my time. However, maybe I should go to other commission meetings and see what's going on. But this is kind of similar to some variances and stuff that become out of planning commission all of a sudden. Well, this has been changed. We didn't know it would change it. We have no idea. And then a landowner's suing the city for something got changed over here. We had no clue, and we get blindsided. And so I just kind of thought I was blindsided by this deal. And I know it's not official policy to refund the people that have a pool. I don't guess it's written anywhere in an ordinance. I don't know. I didn't dig that deep. Get on here, thank you.
Do I need to state
something? I think you're good.
Okay. And I think, Tim, to your point, that was part of what the issue was. Tim can back me up on this if I'm wrong, but is that there was not any type of rhyme or reason to anything we were doing. So, it was simply a matter of there was an issue. There's 3 people that worked in the office, and it always seemed that there was, he was going to call it abuse. There were people that, for the spirit of it, you mentioned that a minute ago, that would repeat, calling in for that. And so it wasn't meant as we're too big for our britches or something like that. We want to still be a small town that helps out, but also there's resources, and it always seemed to happen at the inopportune time. Whenever we're running these myriad of bills out and we're trying to get them out, there's all these calls, and so I think it was a violation of the spirit, but also, the reason I came up here, I forgot what it was.
Written policy.
Yeah. To actually have something written down, so that they did have something, when there's nothing, we at least want to have something in writing. And that's what it was. And if folks, I hope that we're, conveying that to people that are coming in the spirit of grace, and we're communicating it properly as we should, because it is a change for some people, certainly going to be a change for them. And so, and I think that the girls, I say girls, I think that the people there have been doing that. We did get off to a little bit of a rocky start, but I think they're communicating that in a better manner.
Well, like I said, it's one of those unwritten rules that you always hear about. I've never had a pool, but I've just always heard about, hey, we give you a break if your pool's to your wall. That's pretty cool. Even before I was sitting up here, I thought that's pretty neat that they would do that. Because, as you know, obviously the sewer bill goes with your water bill. There's no sewer involved, so it doesn't make sense to charge them extra for sewer.
Is it, I'm sorry, is it written down now, the one a year? I mean, is that, yeah, I know you guys talked about it, I go to multiple meetings myself, but so that is a given, there is a one-time fill.
I'm probably a lot to blame about the swimming pool. Because sitting here for the 16 years that I've sat here, I've took it on the chin on how many times about the damn swimming pool bill. So me and Tim got together about the fire hydrant ordinance as far as people in good standard with their bill, being able to come down here and get the meter at a reasonable fee, so you're not, because before, $600 deposit, I mean, like,
On the meter, or
Holy
on
smoke.
the thing.
and so it all has kind of orchestrated since it went to this commission deal, and I'm kind of on the same page with Tim about some of this commission stuff, but it got kind of orchestrated out of play really bad in the miscommunication. So one reason I even spoke is I think it's all taken care of, but Charlie, you do the minutes for the water, is there any way we can get those?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Well,
Yeah, but me getting online is like, me sending you an email, which I can't
yeah,
happen, so.
yeah. I'll try to remember that.
I'm just saying, that'd be a,
You can always get them.
Something you can look at and check.
just so we would kind of know we can say, we can see what's.
I would ask though, I haven't seen what ordinance or what, I don't know what you would call the rule written with the pool refill, what that, the commission, what y'all call resolution. But I was just wondering if there's a policy, if there's a little asterisk somewhere where Chief Brian comes over and sucks all your water out trying to fight a fire that you can refill it for free. I don't, and the only reason I say that is to cover all of our bases, because it's gonna happen. And somebody's gonna refill their pool, and then they're gonna complain that the fire department took all their water.
Is the new policy, is it that we give them a break on the sewer portion of the bill?
Yeah,
That's what we do.
one time.
One time, yeah, on a big fill.
Absolutely.
I left mine running last night, I don't have sewer. You know,
You're out, sir.
I'll let you follow.
Sir,
Sorry, sir, you were out of the.
Pay your water bill?
Another prominent citizen asked me about that too, and he's also out.
The water policies are also online.
I always leave them.
Thanks, Tate, I appreciate it, and I hope it's no hard feelings, I spun a blood nut off when the first time I went bananas. And I think I probably called Tim Posey a jackass, I didn't know it was him. I didn't know he was the one who made the call, but that was what the text was to the mayor, on full disclosure. I said, who's making the decisions, I wanna know, if I was mad.
Yeah.
Just because I still kind of feel like I'm from a small town, and that's one reason I like to see picket fences and single-family houses a lot.
Sure.
And there's no reason to be a bunch of mafia, gangster, Gestapo stuff in Greenwood. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And we can't afford to give a guy a $40 break on a bill, and we're doing something wrong. And I don't think the library's gonna get a million if that's the case, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And if it were just one guy getting $40.
Right.
I would completely agree.
I agree. And I agree too, the headache's enormous if they keep calling back every month. I understand that, it shouldn't be that way. No, we can't, if you're full, after the first fill, or, so I appreciate it.
If we just, I think as anything, and our, to the extent that we can communicate that to you guys so that you can get the phone call, and we accept responsibility and apologize for that. But I think communication to our citizens is key to that. And if we do that in a proper manner, I think that everything will be okay. I think it will.
Well, that too, the girls up front, because had she known, maybe she did, but she just didn't know, I guess, at this time.
Do we keep up with who's got pools, who don't have pools, thing too?
Only in the sense that,
Not really.
yeah,
The reason I'm saying, I mean, if there was some way to maybe send out a deal each year, say, hey, you're going, you got a one-time deal, and after
We used
that.
to be on, well, I think it still does, on the application, it says, do you have a swimming pool? And we used to know, when I was in there, we used to note on their accounts, pool, so that way we would know that, like whenever Carla was here, when she got the ratings, and there's 10,000, she could look up their account and be like, oh, well, they filled their pool, it's not a leak.
you're talking about an
just saying
application for new.
For new service.
So
I was
we
just
wouldn't
saying
know
that
if somebody got a pool.
If
that's been
somebody
there forever.
got a pool, and then you would know, and you could send,
No, I think it's good for that, and also good for, as you mentioned, the fire department. I mean, if you're fighting a fire
We know
at
there's
23 west of Denver, and
Yeah.
21's got a pool right there, I mean, I don't know.
So something, Lance, to your point there, and I'm not sure, Tim, if you want to talk about the potential changes to the billing system. You know, we had those cards for forever that went out, and something that is under, where are we? Is it under review? Are we, I'm not sure. So we're talking about going to a full letter size to where we can put messages on that, to where we can actually do some communicating through our water statements.
Well, that will help the post office a lot, 'cause I get complaints from a few people over there on the sorter, that perforated deal doesn't sort real well through there.
So that kind of brings up a whole nother deal because, for example, y'all sent out a letter just recently about the sprinkler meters. If I'm not wrong, about we can turn them off or you're gonna be,
If you have lawn irrigations
right.
system, sprinkler meter, dedicated sprinkler meter, and there's
Right.
like 49 or 50 people, I'd be surprised if you don't have lawn irrigation, do you?
No, just that lot next door is set up as a, because you don't even, it's just a meter there. I mean, I have a meter.
It's probably called a sprinkler meter for like,
Yes.
just because it's a meter sitting there, that's
Right.
probably shouldn't be.
My mother got one on the other lot, so we were just trying to figure out just because for the,
They coded it that way.
Right.
Because
basically, because she didn't use enough to say we could turn it off, and then when we needed to turn it back on, but you can only do that like once a year or twice a year.
yeah, it was kind of keep people from calling you out there every 2 or 3 weeks, turn on, turn on, turn on. We had someone going out of town every 3 or 4 weeks, and they were calling us.
Okay.
We turned water off to one lady's house, I bet you 14 times in 6 months.
No, I'm dealing with subject, but I just now thought about that when she was asking me, because she didn't understand exactly what, because it says it's gonna charge the minimum every month regardless.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Whatever
turn
that
it
is,
off,
I
you
don't-
won't get a minimum bill.
Okay.
I mean, but basically, everyone, if there's liability there, we have to read the meter.
Right.
And so if we read it, you get a bill.
Right.
If we don't read it, you don't get a bill. That's kind of how that works. But in regards to what Tate was talking about, we're looking at outsourcing billing. It's probably going to happen next year. There's more research. There's a cost associated with it. We've been looking at it for some time now. But, you know, the cards, the post office, it doesn't like the cards, and it eats them, tears them up, loses them, and they get wedged in magazines. And then you can get about this much Happy 4th of July, or something like that. That's all you can get. So we are looking at that. That's going to be one of those capital projects or an improvement that will be on next year's budget, and you'll see money dedicated to that. There is a cost, and it's another company that does it, because as you can imagine, all those envelopes have to be stuffed, and there's specialty things. So we are looking at that. That's another one of the improvements as we go forward. Some of these things are housekeeping things. We're just fixing. We're correcting things that have been broken in the system. And the pool fill was a broke thing. It was just, if you call 3 different girls, you get 3 different pool fill equations, answers, or whatever, because of the way it's done. So anyway.
I'm for the letter thing too, because a lot of times we have to send stuff out. The health department tells me exactly what's going to be on it, and we couldn't get it on. I had to stamp 4,000 of them with the stamp made especially for that. So I'm very much for this, because health department will require you to say some things on there sometime.
And stamp every one.
Will you be getting back to us before you go to change the billing cycle? Is that something that will be a part of the decision on that?
It'll be, you'll probably, yeah, I will be sure to do that. It'll be in the budget. You'll see it reflected in the budget. Of course, you know, it's probably not going to just jump out at you, but I'll mention it in budget time that we're budgeting an increase in this area in the water office for outsourcing billing. So.
Well, you talk about a little bit of cost involved in an improvement, but I'm all about, is there a savings involved?
There is a cost associated with it. I did the math. Well, that's why we haven't done it yet. We looked at it. I thought, well, we can eliminate this expensive printer. We can eliminate this, that. I did the math on it, and it costs more. You get more, but it costs more. But people will get a bill more likely than not. Now, somehow those bills just disappeared. They're a little bitty card, and they just get lost. So, but yeah, certainly it will be a budget item. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it at budget time, and if everybody's up to feeling that, we don't really
getting to the point now, we think it's probably prudent to move that way.
The message part is beneficial too, for sure. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can be put on there.
All sorts of city information.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on outsourcing stuff, but like I said, I just why I was asking if we're gonna be involved when the time comes there, just to make sure that doesn't get lost in commission minutes and then all of a sudden.
It will be, it's going to be a budget item because it is going to be an increase to our operating costs. And I will actually list it in the budget. You'll see it, we'll mention it, we'll talk about it.
There is times also when we go out to clients for something,
Yep.
I have to have stuff printed and sent out. I could probably get this in there and that'd save me $2,400 and $4,500 for sending out CCRs, consumer confidence reports. So it might go in this. It might help a lot.
Appreciate it, guys.
Did you mention Clarence, or Clearwater Revolve?
Yes.
Can you say it? Creeks, thank you, not Clarence. That's the, thanks, Mr. Cole.
Probably ask you directly.
Yeah. That's right. Anything further, Mr. Terry?
No, I appreciate you letting me have
Okay.
it.
You bet. Well, call me up next time you're done.
I love the paper trail.
Okay. Finance, Mr. Marsh.
5-0 in the top of the sixth.
Very good.
Noodling?
No? Yes.
Oh, don't ask. He's got a video and everything.
He probably printed them all off the picture.
Oh, that's right. Show him the picture. There we go. There we go. Well, you gotta know he's holding that. No, where's the 8 by 10 you
Yeah.
printed today? That's what we're, no, okay.
Does that mean the small one? We got a game of fishing out here.
I do dear. They do.
All right, first, what I handed out to you, let me set the stage a little bit. The investment committee met at your request. Probably after my first year here, I was looking at, we have 16, well, at that point we had 13, 14, 15, and now 16 million. And it's all sitting in one financial institution, and we're not basically generating any kind of free and clear revenue on idle cash. And I've mentioned this more and more over the last several years. At the last audit, the auditors, they always look at collateralization. They look at what we have done in order to protect the monies that are in that financial institution above the FDIC insurance coverage. As doing so, there are several ways that you can address the issue, and that is we require the bank through a custodial agreement that we have with them to collateralize the monies that are in excess of the insurability by the FDIC. One of the things that we've noticed is that in their investment strategy that they are doing, and even though it was a finding on the audit, it wasn't something we had to respond to. It was just more of a note, in that there was a secondary risk, as I like to refer to it. It's an investment risk that was regarding the custodial credit. In other words, whenever they invest in trust department securities or any kind of an instrument that is of a security nature, their collateralization of that security was non-existent. So some of the money is about 35% of what was invested by Farmers Bank. To collateralize the monies we have are at risk because if we were to go claim against them and they had an issue, we would stand not to get all of our money back. And that's why they're pointing that out. The law doesn't say that we have to address custodial credit risk. It's something they mentioned to us that we might want to look at. Some of the strategies in order to make sure that this isn't an issue going forward is to structure your deposits with multiple accounts at multiple institutions, which means spread it around. Water, sewer would be at one bank, for instance, if we were to do something like that. Street monies with all the street funds would probably be lumped with, let's say, the general fund at another bank. We would have the A&P. Of our 8 funds, we would we would spread them around. And that would lower the need. We'd still have to collateralize because it's obviously 16 million. But it's, by spreading it around, it doesn't generate any additional income to you. You're still subjected to any of those accounts that are currently getting passbook or the bank interest, which is 0.0 non-existent, minuscule. It didn't solve the problem of getting an amount of money that we could use for what I'd like to consider to be emergency needs. We don't have a contingency fund, and this would be one way we could generate it by taking our idle cash and investing it. So I presented to them the fact that if we were to invest money in U.S. government agency money market type of funds, such as treasury bills or any kind of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or any product that the government has, it's 100% collateralized. So we don't have to worry about then doing subsequent collateralization as long as those are invested in government securities. So it also generates much greater interest. I gave you two bar charts that are behind the spreadsheet talking about our funds. One is when we first met, I had the interest rates as of May 31st, and you'll notice that the Treasury notes, which is what most of the investment, most of the financial companies are basically saying is the safe bet to put it in, took a major dip at one of its lowest points during the COVID year, during 2020, and then started rising at the tail end of 2021. And it is now back to where it had been performing over the last several years. So as of May 31st, the return on a 10-year Treasury note yielded 2.74%. And right now, as of today, I pulled this today, it's 2.96%. But on that list that you see is the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 5 year as well. And that's what I would recommend, is that we don't look beyond maybe a 5 year. I don't see us going or extending farther than that. So if you were to look at that first sheet, if you look at that first sheet that's attached to it, you'll see the budget that we had as of 12/31, our budgeted fund balance, should we had spent or had we had spent everything that we said we would do for the year, our fund balance would have been at about $10 million. That was as of the end of 21. Our actual fund balance as of the end of 21 was $15.8 million. A lot of that was the carryovers and things, projects that were not done. And that technically became idle cash. That was money that we didn't have working for the city. In 2022, our proposed budget was that we would end the year with this year at $13.3 million, should everything plus the carryovers be done. But as I pointed out to you in the May numbers right now, we're only 6% of our capital, which is the largest percentage of monies that could be invested. And I don't see us hitting 100% of our $6 million that we have right now in capital budget for capital improvements and capital expenditures being spent. So our actual fund balance right now, as of May 31st, as I pointed out, was $16,691,000. So that's even up from our $15.8 that we ended the actual fund balance as of 12/31. So just being conservative, looking at $6 million right now, I could get a little more aggressive and probably move $8 million. And then I said, these are the accounts that we would probably want to use them from. And the first is a general fund. We have two sources. We have a restricted and we have an unrestricted monies. Remember, all of these monies that are what we consider to be excess or idle, you can pull back. Now, you'd say you'd lose money. You really technically wouldn't lose money. You would lose an amount of potential interest, but you could gain it back in an emergency should you need to grab that money and recall it. So, yes, there's a penalty for it, but you would have been gaining interest all along. So the first thing I looked at is moving $2 million, $500,000 out of the unrestricted and $1.5 million in the restricted side, and do it in the portion of $1 million in the 1-year treasury note, and $500,000 in the 3, and another $500,000 in 5 treasury notes. Then if you go down to the line for the water funds, they have right now 1.7 in the water operation fund. I would move $500,000 into a 1-year note. I would look down at the next big category, which is the city sales and use tax, water sewer restricted. That's where most of the capital projects come out of. 4.6 million there. I would move 2 million, and I would spread it 500, and 500 in that fashion. 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year in $1,500,000 and 500,000. Street, 1.5 million. That projects are lasting more like 2 to 3 years before they would come to fruition. I would move $1 million to the 1 year and $500,000 to the 3. But these are just something that we just discussed. We would have to look at it more in depth based on what the budgets are. And what would come in very handy is your recommendation, Mr. McDaniel, about having a meeting where we could sit down and see exactly where the departments are and where they think they're going to end the year up with. So that tells me more what the Iowa cash is and whether I'm on target for what category I want to put this. Now here's where the big thing comes in. If you look down at the bottom, the interest rates as of May 31st, the yields were 2.01% for the 1 year, 2.64 for the 3, 2.71 for the 5. Those are annual yields. The $3.5 million in the 1 year note would generate $70,000. The 3 year note would generate right under 40, and the 5 year note would be $27,000. That totals $137,000 in 1 year's yield for those placements. As of 2021, the total interest of all instruments, all investments that we had, CDs versus interest-bearing checking accounts, was $7,800 for the city. $16 million generated $7,800. That is not a good steward of the city's funds. That's what I've been saying for 4 years. So if we could do something and move that money, you would be generating that alone, that example I gave you is 1,600% positive variance, positive difference. So the investment committee wants to put this out for request for proposal from all the banking institutions here, possibly even Stevens and Regions, which is they've actually asked to do it, and maybe even Raymond James, the people that bonds with. And let them come back with an investment strategy proposal to us, and along with the fees that would be associated with it. And we'll mull those over and make a recommendation as to possibly how we move money, and we just maintain that so that we can give you then a report of what is our liquid funds and versus our investable funds. And that's what we're recommending.
This $6 million kind of kitty we're talking about here is unused capital expenditure money, majority of it?
No, it's some of those are operations. If you look at the operations for the water department, there's $500,000. Sewers, we cash manage sewer a little bit closer because they were borderline for years due to their bond, which just got paid off. So we're letting them recover. But they only have $621,000 in the sewer side. So we can move $500,000 of water right now and not have a problem because the $4,600,000 funds their capital projects. So it covers their expenses.
Let me rephrase that. If of the $6 million, if this cash needs to be used next week for something that happens, will we be able to get it out of these treasury notes?
Well, yes, you would, but that's what I said. If I know they're going to be having a project that's coming due and those expenses are going to be within the next 6 to 8 months, it's not moving. I'm retaining that because they're telling me, and they'll be telling you, these projects will be completed and we will be expending money by the end of the year.
You're speaking on more of the emergency.
These are
Maybe,
long-
yes, a huge water break, a tornado.
Lawsuit?
I'm ready
Yes,
for
these monies will work for us until we need it. Now, I'd like to let them go through maturity, but, and then call them back. But, yeah.
Right, I mean, it's like a 401K, if you borrow from them, there's a little penalty involved if you're not 59 and a half. I'm kind of basing that off of that, if we have to go in and get some of this money out early or whatever before it's mature.
I basically use economic value added. It's a concept that says that a dollar should return more than a dollar back to you if you are a good steward of that dollar.
Yep.
Well, in this case, as long as we move that money there, even if we bring it back and we don't yield 137,000, if we yield 10,000, that's better than the 7,800 we're currently getting.
100%, I agree.
So,
I get just availability of funds was my main issue. If they weren't tucked away and we were just sitting there, well, we can't do anything, it's tucked away in the people.
part of the request for proposal that we'll do to these banks is we'll have that buried in there to say, let us know what the penalties are for early withdrawals.
Okay.
I suppose, Tom, you would have to set up the account so that the interest would allocate back
To those
to those
departments.
various departments.
Correct, and I would like to put it into a contingency account for them, because that's free money to them. That was not something coming that they were anticipating, and I have to put it there for them to use for those emergency needs. It may take some of the departments a couple of years before they actually develop a really healthy balance there that they could use, but it's our money working for us, and that's what I.
Something they've never had before, the departments for sure.
Correct.
This was very, as Tom said, he's been preaching this for a while, and it was really eye-opening for me to know what we were making and what we could make.
What we've been missing,
Yeah.
that's what's big.
We need to do that
So,
sooner than possible.
That's an emergency clause.
I mean, $137,000 is a project for a lot of departments.
Yeah, I mean,
But you want to put it out though to these other companies.
Yeah, you want that back first before.
Oh, yeah.
but if you're needing to get something from us to say, go ahead and start shopping and Raymond James and all, whatever, however.
Well, based on what we read, it's more informational for you. We'd like their blessing on it, but we've been chartered to actually manage this money in a way that's positive, so, as an investment committee. And the committee is sitting right here,
Yeah.
Charlotte, the mayor, and myself.
So I mean, if you're, we don't have
Bless you.
any negatives as far as going forward with our research and expertise.
So, not to toot his horn too much, I said I wasn't gonna do this anymore. But besides being an excellent bass fisherman, how often have we ever heard this? Never. So kudos to Mr. Marshall. Looking into this, and Charlotte, I just said to say, huh? All right, you got, thank you, sir. Reschedule August council meeting date. Yes, this is all about me. I am to be at CDI in Conway. It's a class I started taking about 6 years ago, and I got year 1 and year 2 out of the way, and then family things and other things kept me from going back. It's economic development. It's beneficial to me. Not everybody loves it, but it's pretty good stuff. So I'm going to be gone out of town, and I hate missing council meetings. So I'm asking that you consider moving it to the next Monday, which would be the 8th. Is that right? Is that okay with everybody?
It'll take a vote
Yeah.
because you adopted your calendar.
Right.
Well, I make a motion that we, change the official council calendar to the August meeting to the 8th of August at 7 o'clock.
Motion second.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Derek?
Yes.
Lister? Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll make you proud. I'll bring back all the certificates and everything. Number 12 is taken care of. Mr. Hamilton. Number 13 is city clerk treasurer ordinance for doing business with Greenwood Air, which is a related party.
All of these next three ordinances, basically housekeeping, so that we comply with state law First one being, I guess the police department, well, somebody.
It
has
is.
hired-
It's my brother-in-law, Kristen's husband.
And Kristen's,
Who's he gonna service everybody all over the city?
If we would like.
well, we kind of, PD kind of does their thing over there with their air conditioner. He will be available.
So since there's that close relation, we have to do this ordinance.
So this
It's my brother-in-law.
Kristen's husband owns or just works for Greenwood
He's
area?
getting his own business.
So,
He's starting his own business.
no, can I?
Oh, no.
Can I?
Yes, you may.
Okay.
You must show your plaque first.
Okay, so it's David Falconberry. He's been doing heat and air for about 20 years now. He's my brother-in-law who has worked for Orrin Ashley and Elite Building. He most recently worked for a couple of years, ever since the medical college over at Marlene started. He became their maintenance person. He has now saw the opportunity, now that Greenwood no longer has a local HVAC company, to go out on his own to be Greenwood's new HVAC company. Working for himself.
So we're doing this so if he does get a chance to do heat and air, we're covered.
Right. Yeah, we're not saying he's hired,
No,
whatever. We're just
He's
saying,
asking if we were to choose.
if we call him, he's
do we
able
have
to do it.
Yeah.
Well, because his wife works for me. Just like we got, I do that over.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any city
We've
official,
done-
Florida state law.
Rod and
We actually have one for you, sir. Yep.
couldn't remember the name.
Now, I don't know if we've hired him yet, have we?
No,
No,
So
this
it may not need to be emergency this week.
no, it doesn't.
We've not done any business
is,
yet.
the only thing I would say about that, and it's not really an emergency, so I won't push it, but we are having issues with the company that, yeah, we're just having some issues.
Yeah.
It's hard to get stuff done.
So if you think that
I-
services are imminent.
I
it can be
wouldn't be surprised, yes, sir.
I've got a heat and air unit going out that's went out. I might not be able to have them did it. I've got another person did it out of town right now. I didn't know this was on the
And,
way.
and by the way, as you know, Chief, I appreciate you standing up and saying this, but I'll put you on the spot now, so we love to use local. But yeah,
But anyway, I like them did it.
what happened to those boys up on the, behind the church out there?
That's where we were using. Orrin Ashley bought it.
yeah, they bought it.
We no longer
We're still-
have a
So we're
Greenwood
using
company.
Warren Ashley, who's,
Up there behind Westwood Baptist Church, behind
Eric
that
Harris.
3030.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
They were behind Westwood Baptist.
So there's still an operation, it's not a local guy owns it.
Orrin actually got bought out now.
It's not in Greenwood any longer.
Actually, it's a private equity firm out of Louisiana that's been going around buying a lot of them, so it's not even actually air.
Yeah, it's something else.
Or- I mean, actually air is the name, but
Yeah.
it's actually some folks out of there, so.
Did he hire him? This guy? The Greenwood area guy?
Oh,
Not that I'm aware of. He has one other guy that's working for him right now.
Well, you better get some more employees.
I'm sure he will.
But I'm all about making, they put this ordinance on, first reading by title only. Second.
the motion to place it on by title only, first reading.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry? Unanimous. An ordinance authorizing the city of Greenwood to conduct business with Greenwood Air, declaring an emergency here for other purposes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules of waive second, third reading.
Second. Motion second to waive second, third reading.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
I'll make a motion, we adopt this ordinance.
Motion second to adopt.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
How bad a problem you got over that, Chief Brian?
If something's gonna happen this week, then
I'll make a motion, we enact emergency clause.
Second. Motion second to enact emergency clause.
Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Oh.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Vice Terry?
Sure.
Seven yes. Well, I mean, for the record, we need yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good Lord. Well, geez,
Well, that fails unless
I would like to enact my ability to vote.
He said he
you
would
use
make
your powers, your
Use my
superpower.
powers, and I vote yes.
Okay, that passes.
If fire department could have made it more than a month, I would have said something different.
Can you see stir sweating? Come on. It's fixing. Sorry.
It's hot out there.
We don't want that, do we? Number 14.
Andy's office too.
Same
Right.
situation.
They're upstairs, Andy.
Except for this one's, my son works for Deep Manufacturing and Greg apparently uses them. He just told me one day, so I didn't even really know, so since it's come to light, when you have knowledge, you have to do these things.
Wow. Wow. After that.
I'm gonna tell Gary, you can deal with
That's
it.
why I'm saying it's over. I'll make a motion, we put this on for reading, title only, first reading.
Second. Motion is second, place for first reading title only.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
It's unanimous. An ordinance authorizing city agreement to conduct business with Duke Manufacturing and declaring an emergency in President.
Make a motion, we waive the second, third reading.
Motion is second to waive second and third reading.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Motion to adopt ordinance.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Sure.
Are we gonna have any need for custom fabricating over the next 30 days?
We've already done it. It's already been done, so it doesn't really matter.
I don't know, if something breaks down, yeah. But there's a lot of working parts, a lot of moving parts of the water.
We're just trying to tiptoe around emergency clauses. If y'all are waiting on something, then we'll
We're
pass
not, we're not.
Like I said, it's already been, they've already used them before. So
Uh,
it doesn't matter.
Don't say that.
I mean, they're gonna see it.
So are you, so are we moving on?
Let it lay, get 30 days.
Okay.
Next one is, we've used these two, this is Sunny's son that works there.
We're already doing,
Engineering?
Daniel, we're already doing business with them.
Yeah,
We've got
Sunny
several
came back.
projects going, and the parks department's got some projects going, so.
They're the engineer for who? Parks?
Cracked and tall. Yeah, Parks is doing business with them. They're the ones that did our, map of, zoning map. And I checked when we started and there wasn't an issue, and now there is an issue, so y'all do whatever you want to do.
Make a motion to place this on its first reading.
Second. Motion is second, first place, what he said.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing, unanimous. An ordinance authorizing the city agreement to conduct business with Craft and Toll, declaring an emergency in President.
Make a motion, we suspend rules, waive second, third reading.
Second.
Motion is second to suspend second, third reading.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Moving on.
Yes.
Okay. Number 16, ordinance to waive, consider waiving competitive bidding for the tornado sign.
Yeah, I'm.
Okay, then we do.
Yeah. Got the phone.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the resolution for the budget.
It's already spent.
We're not talking about the money
No.
before we do the waiving and the bidding, I think. We gotta do the waiving.
No, I agree. Yeah, isn't that what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about to them.
Oh.
Because they're,
It is not spent, no. Go ahead, chief.
well,
Me, Chris didn't pay for this, it's billed to her.
Huh? Good point.
Go ahead, chief.
Or you? Yeah, go ahead.
Someone that has lived here longer than me probably answered you when these tornado sirens were installed, because they were
definitely before I got here.
And Chief Hicks was here because he called them sirens.
Well, there you go. But we've had, I can't tell you how many failures and just people not hearing, they're not in the proper placement. People hear the covers, the sirens are old. So some time ago, I started talking to the mayor about this, and I approached him last month, and it's time to get new sirens with the threat of tornadoes happening so often. And people need to be able to hear them, they need to be placed in the proper positions, and obviously parks is a problem, and the safety gun that is out of Little Rock does a lot of the towns around here, and to my knowledge, it's the only one that does it out of Arkansas. So I've been in contact with them, and they were willing, and you'll see in the emails there, they're willing to, they can only red flag one project at a time, and they're finishing up a project right now that was red flagged, and typically it's, red flag goes to government agencies or large expenditures of cities. But they're willing to red flag our project, which would guarantee us to receive the sirens no later than 6 weeks, and installation no later than 2 weeks after that. So I have up and running tornado sirens in 8 weeks if we pass this, and I get them the PO. So 8 weeks from possibly tomorrow, we could have up and running new tornado sirens. And with this, I've asked for the software, which actually monitors the weather, and it'll sound the siren by itself. Now, someone has to man the sirens at the police department and keep on punching in the number to do that. And obviously, there's human error where we make calls. I mean, I've had calls where, should I do it, should I not do it? And by no means I'm not a weatherman, but I watch the radar throughout the night when need be, and I say yes, stop, send them off, or no, don't do it, keep doing it, no, stop. And I'm basically watching the radar and listening to what the news is saying, and we make that call. Well, we won't have to make that call anymore. The software will monitor and automatically sound them off for us.
We do have a weatherman amongst us, Pearl Bass fishermen, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he come down and sound the sirens.
Yeah, no, I think taking that human, having to be there pushing buttons.
Are there 5 now?
Yes.
They're located, I believe. And we get called, we as in the city, Danielle gets calls of people after every storm. We didn't hear this one. Now, granted, some people are either not paying attention or whatever, because sometimes somebody will call from this side of the road and say they didn't hear it, somebody over here did. But there have been failures on those things.
Have we been documenting where we're getting the calls from, like where the low zones are, where we can't hear it?
I know for a long time, for several months when we tested and the Aster wasn't working, I actually have been with the city for 7 years and I didn't even know we had one on Aster.
Right.
So I know that it was out for a long time, but we have gotten, and I would tell Kristen, Deerwood's calls a lot, and even on Mount Harmony, where I live, and there have been numerous times where we've not heard it.
Well, the siren is like 15 feet from my house, so
Right.
it works fine.
Right.
Trust me. But
Right.
where you live, I would say you probably can't hear it because my mother lives right across the street from you. She's never heard a siren.
I heard
Luckily,
it.
you guys roam the streets with their sirens on, so I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
But I was just saying, somewhere out there that's circling and catching.
There is a map that was sent, which I don't have it with me, but all the sirens are going to move, and it shows, in circles how far that covers. Okay.
It's that black and white.
A lot of them before were overlapping, like major, so I think that may have even caused some
Well,
problems.
you're talking about, 30-year-old sirens.
Yeah.
And did you say these new ones will, I don't think you told me yet, did you say that they'll move around?
These ones don't, they're just, they have different cones.
Oh, the new ones won't, okay.
The old ones are just, they're old, they're really old, and not to mention, the poles that they're on are usually, the electric companies change the poles out, I think, every 20 years.
Yeah. No,
He's been sitting on
This
those
one's
things for
current.
30 years.
What you have in your hand is what's proposed, this is the current.
They match this.
Oh, they do?
They match both of them.
Oh, I thought you said matched, yes. This one is what we're dealing with now, and that spreads it out.
Well, I guarantee the horn in my house doesn't cover that on the show.
Sir?
The horn in my house doesn't cover what it showed it does right there.
Oh, really?
Well, it
Does
does,
the ones now go around and around?
Yeah, well,
Not yours.
my current one goes around and around, yeah.
does actually still move.
Oh, yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome. It gets super loud for about 3 seconds, and it's got a little bit real loud, then it's super loud. Yeah,
So
it's cool.
these kind of send out, so it's continuous, so
Yeah,
your break from the loop will.
yes, I do. I'm curious.
The only other thing that I will do, and I'm working on, is going to the electric companies to see if they'll give us the poles at cost, or, because there'll be a full cost price if I let them go out and move it, and I know I can currently do poles cheaper, that would be 55 to 60 feet.
And Chief, you say looking to a server network where is there a recurring fee for that? Or is it
They're going to license it, I'm sure, every year, with any type of software, we're paying software fees every year, which shouldn't be significant.
Did we ever figure out where this money's come from?
That's our, yep.
That's the next one.
Oh,
That's in the budget resolution, but I mean, if you need to know it to make a decision on maybe bidding.
Kind of makes sense.
What is this?
There's an email in there, but I've asked them to show me where we'll, and so that they will guarantee by 6 weeks. So he sent me the communication back for saying that it'll be 6 weeks.
Sorry. Sorry.
now, I know taking out the human element of deciding when to turn it on and when to turn it off is a good thing, I guess, but sometimes the computer element's just as bad. It's just gonna go off as soon as what, any of the counties that are warning, or Greenwood's mentioned on Channel 5, or there's a little bit to be said about a guy doing, kind of looking at the radar, when Fort Smith blows their horns, the whole county goes into a tornado warning.
Well, there, yeah, part of it, I mean, that's what we see, northern parts of West
Right.
Virginia, and we not watching it, we can see. I mean, the most recent one, we were watching, it was on a projected path to come to us, but then it hit the mountains over there in Oklahoma, and then it kind of curled to the right. I mean, we're still gonna monitor and make sure that it's going off, and, I mean, just count on that. But
Does it allow you to, let's just
it'll
say.
allow us to manually.
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna ask. So if it malfunctioned in the sense that it didn't go off and it should have, you can go down there and turn it on. The worst case scenario, what you're describing, is not fun for people, but I'd rather have it go off prematurely.
I'd rather have it go off if any of the counties.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because I might have a loved one that's in Fort Smith, I can say, hey, y'all run there, or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it true that when the alarm goes off, it unlocks the shelter? So that's
tied in with the National Weather Service?
Yeah.
Yes. So aren't they now carving that up to where they have, it's not like Sebastian County's now under a tornado warning, like it's this path.
Right, they have to pay it down.
They get real specific, So as far as they can tell what a tornado is.
Well, whenever the storm's coming across the mountains there, you never know what you're going to get on the other side. I've seen that.
I know after the 68 tornado, and I was just a wee baby, by the way, a wee baby. If it clouded up and started raining, we were all in recovery. That's neither here nor there.
Mayor, I make a motion that we place this ordinance for waiving competitive bidding on its first reading by title.
Second. First and second, to place on the floor, first reading title.
Actually, not time out.
Don't look at it,
I know, but I'm just trying to figure, I mean,
Yes, sir.
obviously you've been in, I know you've got the emails and communications, and these folks are ready to play ball. I guess this is the rock bottom price,
Their application's in for a government contracting license, they're almost there, and I called the other cities, I mean, they did all the research, I just had to call them.
Okay.
And that's who's using them, so.
the folks that didn't waive competitive bidding, these guys were always kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, the cost is what the market is right now, if you have any other agency give you the price.
Well, I hate to waive competitive bidding on some things, not on others, and so on and so forth.
Well, I can tell, on top of this, these are the ones that are doing it. You're gonna get bids from other places that wanna get into the business.
Right.
I'm not mentioning names, but, I mean, we don't have them come and fix our siren.
Right, yeah.
These are people, this is what they do, and we know that the coverage is gonna be correct, and it's gonna be guaranteed, and I feel like we're doing it the right way.
Okay.
And I wanna start talking about fun, where it's coming from.
That's all right. So we have a motion. Did I get a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester? Yes. An ordinance waiving competitive bidding for purchase of equipment and labor for replacement tornado siren system, declaring emergency and for other purposes.
Next one is the budget amendment.
You want to just do that first reading, or
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
did you want to do it
Yeah.
under emergency?
Sorry. I stopped in the middle of that. Is there consideration for the emergency?
Well, he
I'll
said,
make a motion, we waive second and third reading.
You're looking at 16 to 20 weeks if we get put on the list and don't get red flag, so, we go through our process and don't do it, and you're looking probably 20 weeks at least with the time.
second,
Have a first and second to
wait,
waive.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second,
First and second to adopt.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Harris?
But we're not gonna need the emergency
The cost is going to
clause. We've
go
been
up.
through the tornado season, it's over. Hopefully,
Cost will go up. Good point.
Yeah.
costs will go up 30 days.
Price of gas goes up, this stuff goes up.
We don't get the funding, we're not gonna get the red flag. It's responsibility.
Here's what I'd like to,
Their red flag project they're working on right now is about to end. And if I don't come to them and say, we're ready to
You
go.
said
this
it's
week,"
8 weeks before you're gonna get to it, right?
8 weeks is the longest it will take if we do this, if we approve everything tonight. They're telling me they're gonna have it up and running in the longest 8 weeks.
So it could be shorter than that, if they need to know that funding's been approved right now.
yeah. No,
We just adopted the ordinance. But now it's got to be.
Unless you call me and get the ordinance.
Well, this is a fun,
Oh,
right, that's what we're saying.
let's talk about funding since we're
So what would, y'all are trying to get an emergency clause on waiving competitive bidding, right?
Yes.
Yes. To get, to shorten that time. So, you said it's the very long as 8 weeks. If you don't do anything, we should do it normal.
16 to 20 weeks
16
after
to
we
20.
get the.
What I would like you for you to consider, and I know you guys are, I'm not trying to pull it. Okay, so consider what could happen, and I know this is out there a little bit, and what could happen between an 8-week period, which we could have it up and running, and a 16 to 20 week, heaven forbid. tornado
Add
comes through.
4 more weeks to that.
Yeah, and then, and with that failing system. If that makes sense.
And, I mean, where the funding's come from, makes sense that there's.
Yeah, the funding's, I mean, it's a no-brainer in my, in Tom's opinion.
I'll make a motion to enact emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enact emergency clause.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
I just try to say what, maybe some later.
Thank you so much.
It's unanimous. Erica, we're
All right. That's emergency.
Yeah, really.
That's pretty emergency. Thank you. Thank you.
We're not done with this item.
No. 17, right? That is the budget amendment.
Because this is an unbudgeted item greater than $5,000, it requires the council approval for the expenditure and the adjustment to the budget. The first whereas talks about the city recognizing the need to incur the cost to replace the current outdated and ineffective system with a new state-of-the-art, more reliable system. The system will provide comprehensive coverage within the city limits and address the public safety needs of the current and future growth of the city. Because it's designed to cover an area to the east of us that is currently very not covered. It also is going to cost $187,031.48, and will include strategic installation of 5 omnidirectional high-powered sirens. It'll be interfaced with the weather-worn activation controllers. It does also allow for social media. I didn't put that in here, but if you look at the actual invoice, it does email and social media. Should we elect to utilize that, it'll send warnings to the citizens' phones as well, saying there's a tornado warning. Where this money would come from is we want to adjust the budget in 67,610 capital expenditures by that amount of $187,000. We are going to use the general fund checking right now for that purpose, and we're going to potentially offset that with the second tranche of the American Recovery Plan Act for, which is anticipated to be at $975,000. We're already being told that's what we're receiving. It'll come sometime in July. It has been not appropriated, so we would eventually come back to you for the appropriation to offset this amount of money in the regards that it would be for public safety. And that's why we're going to use we're anticipating and wanting to use the ARPA money for this.
Make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Second. Motion second to adopt.
Baker?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Tom. Number 18, I think, Mr. Posey, you want to speak on this matter?
Yes. There's a piece of property on Stewart Court adjacent to John Bailey's property that Farmers Bank owns, and they do not have access to water. They're not contiguous. There is a ordinance that addresses how we serve water, and basically sum it up. It says that the preferred method is by annexation. I agree with that. Whenever someone has the ability to annex, we should have expectations of them annexing, and then we can serve them water, as we're not a rural water provider, we're a municipal water provider. However, the ordinance, I think Gary Campbell, and it was voted on, probably you were on council then, Mr. Daniel, has a mechanism for when you're not contiguous and do not have the ability to annex, and that is the case here. Furthermore, James Fork has no water lines in the area. They have no means of providing water.
Why do they not have the ability to annex?
It's not contiguous with city property. With city, I said property with city limits.
The people here don't want to be annexed. This side of that.
Well, we're not asking for that property, we're asking for the property that,
But if we annex all of that strip right there, it'd all be contiguous.
They're not, are you asking if they are asking?
No,
that will be a forced annex.
You can't do that. You have to be both unless somebody asks to be annexed.
Yeah, they're not asking to be annexed. The property, Farmers Bank property doesn't have the ability to annex. In addition, they gave us, and we had some discussion, they gave us a very, had a good value to it, the easement coming from the water treatment plant on the old Floyd Brown property, with this new 12-inch water line. Ray Clements and Farmers both gave us an easement at no cost. That's a pretty lengthy easement for Farmers Bank. And we talked about it at that time, but we never got back, and we had some discussion, but in trading that for the easement, but we never got back with it. I personally, I think this is the case, you know, when they, to allow them to tap into our water system, due to the fact that they do not have the ability to annex, and due to the fact that they just gave us a very valuable easement and no cost to the city.
So they're wanting to get water so they can sell the property.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm guessing, I don't know what the intent is. Again, I think the spirit, the ordinance, the way it's written, I think the intent is, and I would recommend that y'all stay with that, is to get people to annex, and when they can annex. And this is the perfect situation where they don't have the ability to annex, due to the fact that it's not contiguous. This is kind of what that ordinance is designed for.
Farmers on the property across, no, that's Bailey right there. Who owns Floydville South? Who's got Floydville South?
It's so someone that farmers doesn't have that.
Yeah, somebody will.
Someone else has it. It would be my recommendation that you do under this circumstance, but it's clearly it's the ordinance is written, the council has the ability to allow that.
Make exceptions.
Make exceptions.
Under extenuating circumstances. And actually, I wrote this whole thing from scratch because there was no other example, because this hasn't been done as far as an ordinance that I've seen. I mean, I've tried to draw one up that Tammy read it all.
Yeah, you know.
Said it looked good.
Didn't we let somebody tap on the water out there off the Lomer?
Yeah, it wasn't, I don't think it was an ordinance, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't find
I'm
one.
just saying, the house that was built out there. There was
On
Yeah, so.
They did annex, but we
Did they?
let them, I think they did annex, but I
couldn't remember that happening, so.
They annexed after the fact.
But it was after the fact. That was one of the contingencies for us allowing them.
And they had the ability to.
Yes, they did. And I would certainly recommend that you follow that path, because I think that's what the ordinance is designed for. It's designed to, as you can see, Shadow Lake is not annexed. You know, they get our water. I mean, use that as an example. I would recommend that you follow that path. But in this particular case, they don't have the ability to do it. So we want to provide water to people who don't have water.
Well, we kind of lose our strong arm as we do this corridor down 10 Spur with these 53, whatever, and we try to think about pushing, going ahead and adding Shadow Lake again and giving them another run for the money. And we kind of lose our ace in the hole if we're giving some city water outside the city limits and then telling them, well, if you don't come in, you can't have city water or whatever the case, you know.
I think there's something to what you're saying, but it's not the same.
Right.
You know, again, I would say that when anyone has the ability to annex, and many people do, there's a person up on Bell Road that's adjacent to the city limits, and he built a house. Some people want to build without the permits, and then later on they want to come back and get in, whatever. You know, people, if you want our services, you should be part of the city and go by our rules and regulations.
Yep.
In this particular case, it's my understanding they would annex, but they don't have the ability to. So, you know, it's not their fault. So that's where the situation's a little different. I would recommend that you do, because if you start piecemeal, well, we'll let you, we'll let you, we'll let you, we won't let you, that's a different animal.
Can that not be part of our future bill as far as annexing on the south side of 10, you know, for those wagons road that I brought before the Goldsmiths, all the way out through that area? I mean,
That is annexed.
yeah, that we could, you know what I'm saying? Well, we're talking about going down, you know, wide 10, and I've always mentioned about the south side of Highway 10, the Goldsmiths, all the way over to Hendricks. Well, Hendricks cuts down through, I mean, is that not something this could be looked at? When we do that,
to take in this part of that property.
Later,
Yes.
Just like everything to this section line, basically, or whatever, you know, all this.
Yeah, I mean, at a later date, bring it in, yeah.
I mean, because it's just like you said, the Shell Lake deal, I mean, we've still got that in documentation, they were gonna come in a reasonable amount of time. And
Well,
it's-
that's correct. So he's gone. Oh, there he is. What does that say exactly?
Foreseeable future.
Or is it the same difference?
So, same thing, I mean, but-
He corrected me.
It was what, 73?
But anyway, I'm just saying, I mean,
I would say
So
that.
here's what.
Yeah, I would say so. Sir?
So the property just to the north, Dr. Brownfield owns all this, okay? This guy bought this piece of property from Dr. Brownfield just recently. And yes. And they came and talked to me and said, we want city water. I said, that's not a problem. You just go down to the city hall and have yourself annexed into the city and we'll be glad to provide the water. There's a water line right there. Very close by. Well, we don't want to be in the city. Okay. Well, but you want city services? Yeah. Well, I think you ought to be in the city if you want city services. So, but they've managed to get tied into this water line that's out there that just happened to be in the right spot. And so this is another case of that, of I want city services, but I don't want to be in the city. I don't know, it just bugs me. I mean, I'm with Tim on this. It's like, I mean, I know it's like this particular piece of property is not contiguous, but part of why it's that is because this other guy, and I really don't know how that worked out. I mean,
Yeah.
how did he get the water tap and not?
I don't know, but
Did he get the water tap?
No. No, he didn't get the tap.
He did? So he doesn't have any water.
John Bailey's the only one out there that has a tap.
So the guy to the north is still without water.
He-
So why wouldn't we say that you two people need to just request to be annexed?
well, we just turned Shell Lake's water off more. I mean, what's the difference?
I mean, they're separate. And you know, we had a discussion at the time we were asking for easement, and we were in kind of a hurry. We were going out for bid, and we had a discussion, and I think they just didn't quite come right out and make a trade at that moment. And then after the ink dried, you know, then they brought that back up again. We certainly would have given them the tap for this easement. 100%, we'd be foolish not to. They gave us a very big, large easement on a big section of their property. So.
You're talking about when we were in that change for.
No, I'm talking about right now, we've got a project.
From the tank
from the water treatment
down
plant down to
the
Highway
lake.
10.
Or down to Ravens property.
Right.
Basically, it's in.
Yeah, it's
To
coming.
Jayhawker Lake.
Yeah, and so we certainly would have given them, without a doubt. I think they extended some goodwill, and I think that that's the case, that we should probably extend it back.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's just, you're walking and you're kind of tiptoeing this line of when is this okay and when's it not okay? And if you don't do it, you do it.
And I would tell you that from the way I read the ordinance, and my understanding, when it's okay to, it is when they want to annex, but don't have the ability to, and we have a water line there, that's when you do. When they can annex and just say, no, we don't want to, then you don't. That's my opinion.
We can't annex because it would create an enclave. Is that why they don't have the ability to?
It's not contiguous.
Because it would create a drive, so it's an enclave.
But
Yeah, or
that's my opinion, is people who have the ability to, but choose not to, then they're choosing not to get our water. People that don't have the ability to and want our water, they can't.
And you throw in the fact that we would have given them the tap if
We
that was
certainly would have.
Sonny, what was the people, did they come and request the water on the place to the north that I found out?
Oh, the brownfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we told them that, you know, they were welcome to get the water if they annexed, and they just kind of went away. We didn't hear any more about that. In this case, like Tim says, they're not contiguous, so we can't, even though Farmers Bank would willingly be annexed in if they could, they're sitting out there by themselves, kind of like Shadow Lake. Shadow Lake, even right now, Shadow Lake said, we want you to annex us. We say we can't because they're not contiguous. Now, once we do this deal with the water company, that will make them touch our city limits. Right now, they don't. There is a gap between, you know, when you go over the hill, that part's not in the city, but over the hill, when you hit Shadow Lake, then that's, your Shadow Lake is there. So it's not contiguous. You know, to make an enclave, you're talking about Valley Loop. An enclave is when you're surrounded by annexed
This would
property.
be an island.
You know, and so this would just be out by itself, and we're not touching it. And like Tim said, you know, and Lance, one of these days when we move in that direction, that will come into the city, and it will already have city water. So, you know, I agree with Tim. I'm very strong against allowing people to get our services when they can annex. But in this case, they can annex, and I'm sure Tim could probably name you a few others that are outside the city limits that are using our water because of the same issue. Well, I can tell you one right across the creek here, the property over here for the portable buildings. They have city water, but they're not in the city.
Are they paying the 25%?
I couldn't tell you on that, Tim. I
need to
don't
find
think
out.
they are.
We need
I
to
think
find
the
out.
only ones that are paying the 25% is Shadow Lake and Eastgate, but I'm not sure.
Well, we need to find out, all the guys that Tim can come up with a bunch of examples that are outside the city limits that got city water. We need to find out all those bunch of examples, make sure they're getting charges.
There's only a couple, but they are getting charged.
And make sure this guy that we're fixing to approve probably gets charged 25% more. That's the price for one city services, not coming in the city.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And don't tell me, well, I would love to come in, but I can't. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, so. But,
Well,
yeah.
that's how the ordinance is written. I'm just giving you my opinion. We have a water line there. It's certainly,
As long as they're paying the extra penalty for getting our services not within the city limits, I mean, I don't really see that big of a problem. I mean, as long as everybody's doing it. I didn't know there was these little instances that were coming. I knew Shadow Lake, and I knew wherever
I'm
else.
not sure which one is it?
The property over here where the portable buildings are,
Right across from Keith Lane.
Talk about the Alliance
Is
Motors.
that not the city limits?
keep
Yeah, it's not city limits.
Where AL car used to live.
Yeah, that's not.
that was done back when
Do they have
Gary
water?
Calloway was on
Evidently.
the council on that
I
other
don't think
property.
it's turned
He
on.
still owns that building,
Does he?
the metal building.
I knew either him or his sister did.
Well, the people, I just talked to the lady that owns that property and the building that was being used for 2-3 things down there.
Mhm.
Her, huh?
Keep glass or something.
Yeah. Well, across, no, not Keith's, across the street.
Right.
Yeah. She came in, don't remember her name. Okay.
Yeah.
She came in very nice, but she came here to look at the bypass, the traffic relief, because the widening is obviously affecting her property. So, yeah, that she owned, her and her husband, good one, I guess.
Yeah, Sandra Goodwin.
On all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Don Key's.
And they live out on 96.
Don Key's property, Pasadena up here, it's one of those that has our water and they get the 25%. You know, it's just one of those that slipped through the cracks and never was in the city limits. And the meter's way back up at the curb and the water line runs all the way down to the house.
So did I hear a kind of a motion that Mr. Terry, as long as it's 25%? know.
I don't like your Daniel complaints, son.
Sir?
I feel like your Daniel complaint, I'll wait till he does. It's his area over there, that's his, oh, that one's my neighborhood, it's your hood.
Make a motion to move towards,
Second.
First reading?
yes.
Motion.
Second. First read title.
Richard's neighborhood.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing extension of water services to property located outside of Greenwood city limits, the finding of extenuating circumstances of the same, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
I guess it mentions in this somewhere about having to pay more for water.
No?
That's a separate ordinance that would automatically apply.
Gotcha.
It is automatic outside.
So,
If you want me to add a section that references that, I will.
If you want to say the reference to the other ordinance, that'd be fine.
Well, is that what you request?
Please, yeah.
Add a section for that.
It wasn't my original motion, but it'd be nice that way. Somebody read this and thought, I wonder if they're paying that, they could say, oh, I guess they are. You know, like the raising peppers, you know.
Can they refill the full?
One time. Yep.
They won't have to.
No, they would have, sir, they would get a refund. That wasn't my rule. I didn't think that.
Are you doing three ordinance or emergency or what?
what's the emergency?
No.
I asked the mayor if they would be emergency.
Yeah,
Is that what you asked me that? I sure didn't know that was on your.
Absolutely not.
I don't know that there is one, so I can let it go. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was what you were talking about.
Well, I'm gonna, I'll remove that part.
Okay. Number 19, Mr. McKinney. I'll let you kind of explain if you'd like. You need help up here? It's been a while, hasn't it?
All right, we gotta fix something from 1907.
Good.
Bill Addition, speaking on behalf of my mother-in-law, Ann, she's got property, got a big lot across from Main Street Arena, and another parking lot here, like, ball field, and everything out on North Daisy. Daisy Street's in the wrong place, we found out. When that was all platted out back in 1907, it showed that Daisy was right up against the property that they now own, and in reality, it's a whole set of lots, probably about 100 feet off from where it should be, maybe even 75 feet. Anyway, we're getting ready to sell some of that property, and because of the discrepancy, this is kind of a no man's land, and I've got a map here to kind of show you if that helps. HB Arena is up here. This is North Daisy. That's these lots here.
Where was the road supposed to be?
Right against these lots instead of over here. It's supposed to be over here. And when we had that
So
house,
is Daisy platted as a road also?
Daisy was platted to be right up against these lots right here. And this is Romanville Cave, their property here. Anyway, that road should be right about where the maintenance building is for the school, and it should come up, and it actually goes right through about 5 houses. New house here, and it doesn't correct itself until it hits Nashville. So it's running kind of.
The actual Daisy Street, is it actually platted as a road also? I mean, is it wide enough that Daisy's actually in a road? You know what I'm saying?
Sunny's going.
Absolutely.
Well, in other words, is Daisy sitting on somebody else's property over there? Or is it actually in a road?
I think it's in the school property. This right here, this is property here, again, been paying taxes on and everything for 65 years and maintaining it. And really, when we had that house built 10, 15 years ago, that new one, we actually identified those discrepancies there and did the offset back from where it's supposed to be. So when we talked to Mike Candy about this, he said the resolution for this would just be a quick claim deed and just transfer that property over, saying that the city has no intention of moving Daisy.
And I spoke to Mike too today, and he concurred with what you're saying. Do you know anything on that? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the answer to your question, maybe that you don't want to ask that question.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know what I'm saying? In the scheme of things, I mean, it'd be kind of interesting to know.
Yeah, it's just, I'm sure Daisy, where Daisy is now,
Yeah.
was probably just a wagon rut and then turned into gravel and then wound up with asphalt on it.
Because it doesn't even line up with the other Daisy that
Yeah, and
begins over in
if you
front
put
of
Daisy where it belongs, you're gonna have to buy about 5 houses and bulldoze them all the way up to Nashville.
Which unfortunately is the opposite direction where the rest of Daisy is.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is like this.
Yes, it's even,
Because my thing, we lived on Daisy.
yeah, it's a bigger offset than what actually exists. It's a goofy layout. So anyway, we're trying to just get that property deeded back over to her so that she can sell that from the house.
That sounds like something we don't want to get into.
Yeah.
We don't have to make that bulldozer.
Yeah, you know, train cars all over the place and everything as it goes up. And it's already a brand new house. Cheeseman's, I think, on that first house there, a lot more repair.
So what do you think?
He's wanting to transfer that property to make Daisy where it's at now, establish that as the proper place for Daisy with the right of ways where they're supposed to be. And then deed that rest of that front yard open this can.
So,
Just kind of making things show what it actually is.
So they need to authorize the mayor and city clerk to authorize a quitclaim deed of record.
I would love to wait for the city attorney for this one.
You got the legal description, I guess?
I don't have it with me, Mike has it, he's got it all.
He knows what it is.
Like Brixie surveyed it already, and used that legal description off of Brixie.
Mike, just for what it was worth, I spoke to him, and he said he was planning on being here to do exactly what's being asked, but obviously not. That's just
well, if you spoke with her today, I mean, what's going to change? I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
He said it's really.
I'm speaking on his behalf, I'm not an attorney.
I mean, I make a motion, because I mean, there's no changing it now.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he had talked about just making sure you guys were aware of it.
Yeah, I mean,
He actually
we need a motion, well,
Second.
Motion and second.
You know, authorize a quitclaim deed on said property.
yes.
Yes.
You said quit claim?
Quit.
$1 parking?
Yeah. Yeah, Grant, yeah, but, about that night.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Is I guess better than sure?
No, we don't want to park.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's hear it.
Yes.
Unanimous. Now, I don't have any kind of document on this, so I'll get it from
Mike
you.
has the whole, it written up in the whole thing.
Yeah, he said.
That's just what it is.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that concludes the agenda, other than department reports, questions from council. Got a few of them here.
I had this question. How's the sidewalk coming there?
Oh, my.
I knew that was coming.
So, I probably just need to make a recording and just push a button. But so the very latest is, very frustrated to say the least. Danielle made another contact with RDOT, as we do every week. Our question was very specific. What about the easement, the last easement to be gained from the Morlocks that we went to court and got, sent on to RDOT? My question was, are you, RDOT, recognizing this? We're good to go. Can you give us a notice to proceed?
Well, the right-of-way division has had it for like a month.
So, yeah, the right-of-way division has had it all this time, but what we're getting back now, and this really drives me crazy, is not anything about that easement. It's more things like a laundry list of things that hasn't been addressed, and they could be as simple as some shrubs in front of Taco Bell or another, and we're like, yeah, let's move them. I mean, we're building a sidewalk, or a guy wire coming off the pole. They're just listing these little insignificant, in my or not, I guess they have to address it, but it looks like all of that was already taken care of, or so we assume. It's almost like we're going backwards. So, yeah, it's great news.
Can you give her a plaque?
And I gave her a plaque.
I'm doing my job, I'm bothering them every week. And so those comments have to be sent to Jeremy, for Jeremy
Yeah,
Shores
so-
at Hawkins and Ware to change the plans, and then once that's done, then there's a form, and then once we send in that form, then there's another form.
Yeah, it's very aggravating.
And they didn't tell us any of this until like Friday, after we've been asking and wondering what's going on, and we just got told it was with the right-of-way division, it takes them so long, so that's where we are now. Jeremy is working on it.
Imagine us being frustrated, Danielle being frustrated, imagine how, I hadn't heard anything in a while, but I understand where citizens are like, didn't we vote to spend this and do a grant, and got money, 3 years ago? Yes, we did, and it's just getting real old. But that's where we are.
Everything's still good with the state.
Sir?
I said everything's still good with the state. And that's how it was.
Oh, yeah, it's just going through, it's this diplomatic, whatever it is.
You know, they wake up a different world.
I know, no, I understand. So, there's that. Let me bring you up to date too. You're not, this is something that I know for a fact. I'll give you the backstory, and then I'll give you, it won't take long, I promise. So, we're at the community, or the, what's that called? Input meeting for the traffic relief. You were there.
Public involvement.
Several of us were standing around looking at the map, involvement, and at that time, running for office, Representative Lee Johnson came over to me and he said, wonder what he knew what the process was as they built a section of highway, we get some 10 spur, right? After they overlay, right? And it was going to be the section that's equal to what they just built. So he came over to me and he said, wonder what the chances would be to get what I like to call food and grow out there with McDonald's and Sonic and everything else done quicker, because it's a horrible mess, as we all know. Potholes and all that breaking up. So I said, I don't know, let's walk. So we walked over to Chad Adams, who's the local guru with RDOT on all things. And we asked him of that, and he said, he kind of chuckled. He's not a real laughable guy, but he kind of chuckled and he said, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe next year, but probably just like it is. Why? And I said, well, it would be nice if the citizens could see something earlier than suspected and know that we're actually going to build the traffic relief, other than us talking about it, and actually see some nice overlay being done quickly. He said, I'll take your request back. Not to brag, but the next day he called me and he said, all right, what do you want to be called now? King or Your Highness? Because I got a call from my boss and we're gonna let this in June next month, which is this month, and we're gonna overlay it in July. So the first thought was, I thought it was awesome. I went to a couple of people I appreciate their inputs. I went to Chad, street man, and I went to Tom and said, what do you guys think? And I already thought this myself, but they emphasized a little bit, well, that you're going to be driving on your new overlay earlier than you would have. It cuts into your yeah. So we take it off RDOT's maintenance early, but we're now on it, right? Because we don't have a new road. But so I went back to Chad and I gave him and Chad, our Chad said, by the way, who's gonna overlay it? He's not impressed with the state doing it when they do it, and he wasn't impressed with another vendor that did it out in the Mansfield, I think. It's breaking up, it's not good. So I said, good question. So I called back. It's going out for bid, absolutely. It's not RDOT doing it themselves. Our hope is that Forsgren, somebody like that gets it that's done a good job. So, I mean, we don't know that, it goes out for bid. And the other, but the concern, our Chad, was that RDOT was doing it, but that's not the case at all. The second thing was, how's it going to affect the sidewalk project if they're both trying to happen at the same time? And two, we all know it's going to be a mess. Of course, when you have new pavement, all that's a mess. But the guarantee is from them also is that not I got to choose, it'll be done from 7 p.m. To 6 a.m. And then we're done, you know, they'll be doing it at night, like you see on the interstate. So that's happening, just want to let you know. My thought process was taking into consideration what was advised to me, but also taking into consideration when RDOT offers to do something now, you go ahead and let them do it, otherwise it could take 5 years.
Did you ask Ken Mayer about what we talked about, like where the edges, the way they?
Not yet. I told him I need to talk to him about it. Yeah. I think that's where you're seeing, where is that? You told me that.
Well, if you go, what we're talking about, if you recall, you had 2 lanes in shoulder. And sometime several years ago, they came in, overlaid the whole thing, made a turn lane all the way out. And so they just paved over the shoulder. Well, if you go from about, I don't know, Rush's place out there maybe, Bishop's business office, somewhere in there, really, if you look at those, the outside of those lanes are fallen, and remember they came in, they cut it and relayed that outside lane, so you see the strip. I mean, I don't know anything about those roads, I don't know if that.
And I think that was
My question is,
Chad's on here.
is the road bed
Good enough.
adequate? I don't want to inherit that thing that,
No, I understand.
like if you go out to me and Richard's house on Coker, where they extended it past the concrete, you see it all the way out.
I put the bug out there, but I didn't get it. He said he's gonna come down here.
I mean, my guess, he's gonna tell you it's fine, it'll be great, we'll go
Probably.
fix it. See you later. But it's worth asking.
Oh, yeah, I did ask him, he said he was gonna, actually, what he said is, why don't I come down and we get the truck and go out there and look, so.
But, Mayor, I guess part 2 of that is the agreement is that before they sign this over to us, it would be up to grade or whatever. I mean, if he's gonna overlay it now and not technically give it over to the city until this other thing's open.
No, I think this situation is that when they do it, it's ours. Which again, I don't care that that doesn't make me thrilled, but saying no to him and then putting it whenever they can get, I just feel like we missed an opportunity to get that thing fixed.
That thing's a roller coaster, I can
It's-
imagine.
Yeah, it's bad.
The base is where it needs to be, just me guessing, looking at it.
Right. And I also asked about the bridges. I know we're all concerned about bridges being turned over to us, right? So I had Jeff Baldwin, who is the bridge inspector, in here the other day to remind him of that these 2 bridges will be replaced. Okay, we know that already from what we know. The rest of the other 3 are, I think, will not be. And he immediately guaranteed me, he said, I can promise you the one that's caboose is A-OK. It's a different bridge. The other 2, he said, I'll make sure. 'Cause they're a little different.
I mean, we'll get some sort of certification.
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah. And that's what he does. Anyway, I just want to make you aware of that. They'll be coming up. I mean,
We just have to make sure that if they
Oh.
get to the grade standards on this overlay that were promised down the
yeah,
line.
yes, this is absolutely, the bid packet that goes out is requiring that. You can't. Now, here's what I would make sure too, that while I'm making sure of things, is that if, let's say Forster, and I'm not trying to promote them, but we know they do wonderful work. If they didn't get it and it was somebody else that has proven themselves not so great, that there's this guarantee that they're going to come back and fix it or whatever. And the other thing, now, to address the traffic on the new overlay that would be early, all truck traffic, now, stay with me for a second because I won't scare anybody. All truck traffic will still come through and go through town around the square until that new highway is built, but they will be required to hang a left in front of the Senior Citizen Center supposedly, has always supposed to be, that's the actual bypass truck route.
This part they're talking about bidding, would it be from the caboose out?
We talked about the square route. So the square would be driven on, I mean, so you got a little bit of traffic there that you can't do anything. I mean, people are gonna drive on that.
Almost be better if they did from the
Sure,
caboose,
and we might
fix this out.
Yeah, and we might can. But all the truck traffic, so I said to Chad, that sounds good. I watched trucks, I witnessed trucks getting stuck literally at the caboose and trying to turn left when they realize they don't know where they are.
And it's forced.
Yeah, and not so much as the other. You can see evidence of dragging there
There's been a
by.
bunch there before we stop.
Uh,
There's been a bunch at before we
Okay,
stop.
so you can see that, and they'll mill that down, because that's just been piled up over these years, they'll mill that down. And then I said to him, what about the horrendously large, wide loads that come through, there's no doubt they'll get stuck, those low boy, he goes, they won't come through there anymore. I said, well, who's gonna stop that? And he said, we do, we permit them. He said, that will be an automatic shutdown, no permit will be awarded to any of those trucks coming through here anymore. They'll have to go wherever they go. So that was a guarantee of him saying, yeah, you'll still see some truck traffic, but you're not going to be on your new overlay. Except for possibly from the square there, if they do that.
I told there were some delivery guys that need to.
Local, yeah, absolutely. Local got the delivery will have to do it. And there'll be some semis you got, of course, they're turning here on Bell Road. You got going to right down here and I don't know where else.
Well, I know sometimes Mike has some stuff up at Allstate that comes there, drops off some big stuff.
Right.
Of course, he's Tractor Supply.
Getting ready to move.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, he's doing this coming
I told the mayor this one day, living out there where I do for the last 20-some odd years, about twice a month on average.
Sorry, I'll just turn it back.
You look out there and there's an 18-wheeler into my driveway. Just, they get to about right there and realize, uh-oh.
Is it turned?
And you walk out there, you looking for Highway 10. He said, yeah, we have, okay, you missed the turn down there. And some of them head on down towards Richards and
really good.
probably really about the time they get right before his driveway.
Toll booth, so.
No, really.
I saw an 18-wheeler going up Maine a couple of days ago. I don't know where he was going.
But I mean, the signage is, I guess they just don't see it somehow or another.
So that's an update for you on that. Again, anybody question for these department heads? Not?
I think we're wrong with council going, wasn't that?
I just jumped in the middle of it.
I just want to tell one thing.
So council department's good?
I recently represented the city of Greenwood at the international conference of the city clerks. It's a big ordeal in Little Rock. I've gone for pretty much a week there and was a volunteer for the state organization and also attended. And 12 other countries besides the USA were present. There's 800 bodies present. So a big deal. It's an honor to be able to represent Greenwood there.
Thank you.
We hope you did well.
Thanks.
I did have one thing on the council forum, and I think I called Charlotte, asked her about this, something about eating trash cans brought in from the curb, and what our thoughts were on that, about leaving your trash can out all month, all week.
Oh, you asked if we had an ordinance
Yeah.
about it.
I've asked this
Leaving your
before,
trash
I
can.
thought we had
Yeah.
something on paper, but I guess we
I
don't.
would.
Sam, we don't have one, or we do?
Well, she seemed to think we did, right?
No, I'm.
I just wanted to get everybody's, check everybody's temperature on that.
Add it to that ordinance about how you can't park in the street.
Well, I think it's always been said that
Yeah,
we
can I put it
don't
back
need
in
a
the back
separate
side?
ordinance on that because the mayor's purview to keep, it's in the whole sanitary conditions ordinance.
Yeah, we've posted it on Facebook before, and I think the PD has as well, as asking residents to not have your trash cans out on the street or on curb, things like that.
Well, some stay 24 hours.
I
and
know,
then
I know.
These can't, the cars can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I just,
We could look
as a
at
matter of
that.
fact, the gentleman that was talking about his pool issue, that neighborhood out there in Westwood has a bunch of them have theirs out all the time. I know some down here below my house do.
Well, they just carry their trash out, put it in there and leave it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, mean,
Yeah, I don't make sense, it's got wheels on it.
I wonder if they don't have wheels on it.
I just wonder, I mean, I'm the laziest guy on earth, but I drag mine back up to my house. I just,
So what did you say about me having purview over that?
It's that whole sanitary,
That's part of the,
I
what
was
is it
just,
called?
we'll look
I
in.
thought there was something in there though that said something about
I did too.
keeping them away from, I mean,
In that hazards ordinance?
I'm almost certain there,
It may be
we had a
in there.
discussion about it.
We'll look into it.
well, if you would, then I'd like to have it enforced. I mean,
Yeah, and I think that
it'd
can
be
be,
really easy to do, because
I don't know, that's PD, I mean, we could certainly talk to the chief, look into it, we'll also let it code, I would think, a little bit. Yeah.
I know that's a lot more hassle